Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Ballin in the Boot. I'm your host, Jace Lejeune for Gridiron Football, and I'm with Darryl Felker, Gridiron Football beat writer for us. Does a great job at the high school side, and I'm pretty excited to talk about this with you, Darryl, because I saw this game too. So I'm
Yeah,
sure we're talking about a lot of the same stuff. Now, Darryl was covering for Gridiron Football. I was actually announcing the game for VSN for Varsity Sports Now. So we had two different perspectives. Darryl was more of an on the field type of perspective. I was up in the press box calling the game, calling the action. So after calling two straight really days for VSN, I was a little bit tired of talking. But after that game, but Darryl, you were there. This was a really big game between Lutcher and Edie White. We had 8-4A district championship was on the line here. Both teams are really in the top five. One of them is Division II select, and that is Edie White. I believe they were number 4 in the power rankings. And then you look at the other side for Lutcher, they're number 2 in Division II, not a non-select side. So this is a huge game with a lot on the line. And Lutcher trying to keep their undefeated season alive. Edie White, they're trying to get the district championship. So huge game at Lutcher Bulldog Stadium. And Darryl, it lived up to the billing. It was a really good football game between the two teams.
yeah, it definitely lived up to the hype. Yeah, and like I said, I'm not too familiar with all the schools, so this was my first time seeing Lutcher and Edie White, and yeah, they definitely gave me a show. They definitely gave me one of, if not the best game on Friday night. Like this was a really competitive game, really good team on both sides. So it was a really good game.
Yeah, it felt almost like a boxing match. It really did
Yeah,
because first of all, after Lutcher's defense is the talk of really the story was really the big storyline because they're really good. Rashad Sterling is the Houston commit, number 0 on the defensive line, and he is a baller. He was pretty much almost unblockable the entire game. And this was a defense that was pitching 3 straight shutouts.
yeah,
So basically 12 quarters of football, their defense did not give up any points. But on the first drive, Edie White just went right down the field and scored a touchdown. Like,
yeah.
wait a minute here. Wait a minute here. But a really good response on the opening drive, knowing how tough this Lutcher defense was. That Edie White just went right down the field and scored.
Yeah, the offense looked really good on that first drive, and like you said, I mean, we were coming in, we were kind of expecting something. Well, not necessarily expecting something different, but the Lutcher defense hadn't seen an offense like this over the past 3 weeks. So pitching the shutouts back to back to back, it can be good, but it can also kind of have you feeling overconfident and just kind of relaxed. So I almost think that's kind of what happened the first drive because they came out and, like you said, they moved the ball right down the field. Their running back, Braylon Jennings, he was
Mm-hmm.
he was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really good. And then their quarterback as well. He's only a junior, but
Yeah.
Grant Barbera, I was really pleased with what
Yeah.
I saw from him. So I mean, yeah, they came down the first drive and scored, and yeah, it was kind of like set the tone for the whole
Mhm.
night. Like, yeah, you won't be having any more shutouts. It's not
Right.
going to be that kind of game. We're here. We're going to put up points, and you're going to have to stop us to get this win.
Yeah, but Lutcher showed why they're so good. I mean, they
Yeah.
immediately responded. They have I was impressed with both quarterbacks. You talk about Grant Barbera for Edie Whiteside. Dwayne Jenkins' son, Zach Jenkins, was really
Yeah.
impressed by him throughout the entire game as well. And we had a couple quarterback touchdown runs. So Zach Jenkins was able to get on the touchdown on the ground to tie that at 7. And then where it was like, I was just about to say on the broadcast, like, we haven't called Trent Cheney's name yet. And then boom,
Yeah.
Zach Jenkins decided to go deep to Trenton Cheney, and you see why he's not only a running back, but he can play out wide at
Yeah.
receiver too. And you saw that on the field.
Yeah, he can play really anything. He was a super athlete, and I could see I can see how they can win a lot of games just relying on him in the run game and as well in the pass game. Like you said, they hit him down the sideline 55 yards, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a perfect pass from Zach Jenkins. So it was a great battle from both sides. They both had really good quarterbacks, good running backs, good defense. So I mean, it was a really good game. But yeah, that pass to him kind of opened the game up and put his first real big play of the game, and yeah, it was a perfect throw from Zach Jenkins
Yeah,
as
it
well.
was. That was a beautiful play. That's actually one of the most beautiful plays I've seen all year long. Covering a high
Yeah,
school game. I mean, that was beautiful. Beautiful of a throw. Now, Ed White responded. I think they had the ball for like 6-7 minutes,
yeah,
and then they kicked the field goal. The pit. I mean, I guess like going to halftime down by 4, so 14-10
yeah.
to go on halftime. And for the longest time, I mean, not really much going on in the second half as far as defense. We knew how tough and stingy both these defenses were going
Hmm.
into this football game. Not only Lutcher's side, but Edie White was really impressed by their defense. Adam Talbot, number 79, was involved in the line plays, and Dietrich, number 7, the linebacker, he was involved too in the line plays. For Edie White, was really impressed by them. And then finally, we were able to finally get that breakthrough moment. What was a pick, I
Yeah,
believe, by Terry Snowden.
yeah.
That's Trent Cheney. And you're thinking it's 20-10. Like, okay, Lutcher's going to cruise here. But Edie White responds with their kicker. I think their kicker is a Marshall commit.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I mean, he showed he
I
had a
wouldn't be surprised because yeah,
starter.
that field goal he drilled. I'm not sure exactly how long it was, but it was a really long field goal, and he just barely made it. It actually hit the bottom of the upright and doinked in,
Mhm.
but I mean he made it. And it was a huge kick in the game because yeah, like you said, I really think that drive before the half, like you said, they had Edie White had the ball for a countless amount of time, and I
Mhm.
really think they needed a touchdown in that
Yeah,
situation.
he did.
And I mean, the field goal, it was nice. It kept them in the game, made a 4 point game going into half, but I really think they could have used that touchdown. And then, yeah, the defense, that Lutcher defense finally made a play. Yeah, he picked it off and ran it down inside the 10 and kind of put Edie White in a bad spot.
Mhm.
But like you said, they came back with the field goal. And yeah, he hit the field goal, and that was a really big moment for their sideline. And Lutcher gets the
Yeah.
ball back in first play,
First
94
play,
yards.
4
Yeah,
yards,
yeah. Trenton
transcendent.
Chaney made one juke, and yeah, nobody was
Yeah.
catching him on that field.
Yeah, that was an incredible play because remember the play before it, it was actually a mistake by Lutcher special teams because I believe it hit off the returner's knee
Hmm.
before going out of bounds. So that's why they marked it at the 4 yard line. And you're thinking all the momentum's going towards Ed White's way. You get the field goal, you have him pinned down there at the 4 yard line. But I guess somebody decided not to tell Trent Cheney that because,
Yeah.
like you just said, like that play going, and we actually have when we call the game for VSN, we have a monitor, so you
Hmm.
can go back and look at the instant replay as soon as it happens. So Trenton Cheney made two guys like he made not only two guys miss, but both those players that missed them hit each other. They ran into
Oh
each
yeah,
other, and then he hit to the outside. And once he got on the edge, man, you
yeah,
weren't catching him. And those two big plays in the game, the 55-yard touchdown catch he
yeah.
had in a 94-yard touchdown run, because
Hmm.
if you think about it, Lutcher wasn't consistently moving the ball up and down the field. So
Yeah.
like those big plays that they had really paid dividends for Lutcher in this one. I felt like.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was definitely a big play kind of game and mistake free kind of game. And
Mhm.
when the Edie White quarterback, Grant Barbera, when he threw that interception and
Yeah.
they set him up right down on the goal line basically, and they
Mhm.
got in within 2 plays, that was a really tough swing for them because like we said, they hadn't really been able to move the ball consistently. So between the big plays or the turnover, those were the only like really big plays that
Mhm.
kind of set them up to score. So it kind of shot themselves in the foot with that interception. But I mean, yeah, I mean Trenton Cheney, he lived up to the hype, and ULL commit. I'm
Yep.
really excited to see what he does there because I mean he has really elite talent. I mean everything in the past game, like you said, he could line up out wide. He could
Yep.
be running back. He just does a lot of things, and yeah, he was really big for them in this
Yeah.
game on Friday.
Yeah, I thought it was a great. I mean, at that point, it was 27-13. You're thinking, okay, but like Edie White just kept on hanging in the game. Like he
Yeah,
just kept on hanging around. They responded, and and really their quarterback Grant Barbera made a couple big plays, and then they drove the ball right down the field and got within 7 points. So they're pretty much right at that position where they scored and there was some time left. I think there was about
Yeah.
2 minutes,
It's
maybe.
3 minutes. It was 3 minutes remaining when
Yeah.
they scored that touchdown to make it 27-20, and they still had all three timeouts as
Mhm.
well. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they were in a pretty good spot with all things considered. So I
Right.
mean, yeah, they still had a chance to win this game. So
They
yeah,
did.
but
They
that
did.
Lutcher offense, I mean, like we said, it was Trenton Chaney all game, and it was no different on the last drive of the game. They were
Yeah.
committed to running between Zach Jenkins and
Yeah.
Trenton Chaney. They were just going to keep running and running and getting first downs, and that was the plan, and it worked, and they were able to run the clock out on them.
Yeah, and that was interesting. The play that did get them the win. They
Hmm.
clinch them the win because I think it was. Yeah, I mean, one. I'm trying to remember which guy. It was Trent. It was Cheney.
Yeah, it was
It
Chaney.
was
Yeah, it was a
Cheney.
3rd and 9,
It was
but
like
you
third
remember
and
they had been moved up
nine.
and back,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was like 2 or 3 penalties back to back, moving the ball
Yeah, it
up
was
and
like third and
forward.
4 and third and 9, and
Yeah.
he got the ball, and he was short. I think he was short maybe about a yard or 2 of that
Hmm.
first down, and they called, I believe it was unnecessary roughness or like an unsportsmanlike kind of penalty on E.D. White. And then
Hmm.
that gave Lutcher the first down and the ability to just run the rest of the clock down. And that's how Lutcher was able to win the football game. But what a great football game. I thought it was a clean game for the most part. Besides that, at the end, I thought both teams played really well. I mean, both teams turned the ball over one time, but the only difference was it hurt E.D. White with their turnover because it led to a touchdown run by Trent Chaney. It didn't necessarily hurt E.D. Lutcher that much when they
Yeah.
did fumble the ball early on. So,
Yeah, because their fumble was literally like within the 10-yard line of them
mhm,
scoring. So it
yeah,
was a really basically an opposite situation where, okay, well, yeah, we turned the ball over, we gave them the ball, but they're still pinned really deep. They
mhm,
still have a full field to drive on us, so our defense can kind of save us a little bit. But yeah, that interception where he literally returned it down within the 10-5 yard line, and yeah, I mean the Edie White defense played really good on Friday
yeah,
night, but with that offense, you can't really expect much uh out of the defense when you have Lutcher in the backfield where he can just
mhm.
hand the ball off 4 times in a row, and I mean it's pretty hard to stop him for 5 yards.
Yeah, I can expect that Trent Chaney is going to be a Gridiron Football Player of the Week nominee. I believe he had 3 touchdowns,
Yep.
three of their four. He had 2 rushing and 1 receiving. So I mean, he definitely played a big role in their big win. Huge win for Lutcher. And I talked to Coach Jenkins before the game,
Hmm.
and basically our conversation was that this team they won a state championship 2 years ago, and a lot of those key core guys were players back when they were sophomores, and they got to experience that. So they got
Hmm.
to see them win these big games, go to a state championship, and I think that helped. I mean, when you have seniors like and the guys that made plays. I mean, Trent Chaney. Terry Snowden, Rashad Sterling, he was pretty much almost unblockable in that
Yeah.
game. Zach Jenkins, he's a senior. So, like, you can tell that some of that veteran leadership and playing at home, of course, helps. But I feel like having that veteran leadership really helped them there.
Yeah, I definitely think it helped them because it's always a moment in the game where you kind of have a momentum swing where it feels like you can lose, and they were undefeated so far in the season, so they hadn't, and like we said, they were coming off of 3 blowouts. They hadn't really been in a close competitive game where they had to really strap on and say, yeah, okay, this is a game where we're going to have to fight just to get the win. So I definitely think having those leaders as those seniors where they can just step up and be leaders that be the leaders that the team needed, and just kind of make the plays that needed to be made, and yeah, so I definitely think that was huge for them.
And I said I talked to Coach Jenkins before the game, but you talked to him after the game. So what
Yeah.
did Coach Jenkins have to say about the win and getting that 7 point victory over ED White?
Oh yeah, he was really happy. He had high praises for Edie White. They were a really good team, and like how everybody was saying, this was kind of a future matchup, a championship matchup in the
Mhm,
regular season. So he
mhm,
knew that this was their toughest test so far, and most likely their toughest test of the season. So this was a really big win for them, just being able to get this win and kind of carry the momentum over into these last few weeks of the season and into the playoffs. So he was really happy with the team and just how they got the win, how they fought back, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what Coach Jenkins wanted. He wanted we want a challenge. Like we want to see how our team can be challenged and tested. And this is their biggest challenge until the playoffs, because I've seen the last couple of stretch of the games they have left, and those are winnable games for Lutcher. So so good chance this was their opportunity to be the number 1 seed in that bracket, Division 2 non-select, and getting that win and being undefeated at 9-0, because they didn't play that game against St. Charles Catholic because of the hurricane earlier this year. But finishing 9-0, that's definitely a possibility. And that, in my opinion, Darryl, that bracket's wide open. But if I have to go with a favorite right now to win a state championship in that bracket, I'm going with the Lutcher Bulldogs from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to, because like we said, they've been handling business in all the other games previously this season, but this was the one game where it's like, okay, if there's a game that they're going to lose, that they're going to struggle, it's going to be this game. And while they had, I wouldn't necessarily say either team struggled. It was just a really good game from both sides, and they were able to find a way to pull out the win, which was huge, because when it's playoff time, that's all that matters. How many touchdowns you score, none of that matters. It's win or lose in the playoffs. So they were able to pull out the win. Doesn't really matter how they got it done. They were able to pull it out, and I definitely think that anybody that lines up against them in the playoffs is going to have a hard time getting a win against them.
I definitely agree with that statement, Darryl. Darryl, keep up the good work, man. It's great to talk about a game that we both are at. Definitely a unique perspective too. And keep up the good work, Darryl. And we'll talk next week on Ballin the Boot.
All right. Yep. Looking forward to it, Jace. Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome to another segment of Ballin in the Boot. Of course, I'm your host, Jace Lejeune. I'm joined by our high school and Southern beat writer, Allison. Alex, it's been a pretty good Saturday, not only for the LSU Tigers. I know right now that they got a big game next week against Texas A&M for control of the SEC. Thinking about it that way, but right now, the Southern Jaguars, they won a big game to take control of the SWAC West as well. So huge win, homecoming. It was one of those special Saturdays down the bluff, and Southern had himself a very convincing win, and really a big time win over Alcorn State, which they probably were the underdog heading into that game as well. So Alex, recap this one for us and talk about what was the biggest win of the season by far for the Jaguars.
Absolutely, Southern. Yeah, this was a huge game for them in a lot of different ways. Obviously, it was homecoming. Obviously, Alcorn State was a really good opponent. The only other undefeated team in the conference, in their division, left. Mm-hmm. And the way this schedule broke out, the winner of this game had an immense level of control left, basically, in the division. So Southern wins the game. Now the Jags can drop any one game for the rest of the season and still control their own destiny, which is obviously game changing to have that kind of margin for error. They're never going to think about it like that, but from a speculation standpoint, it's really important. This was a huge game, and unlike we're going to talk about the LSU A&M game. Well, I'm not going to talk about it. You're going to talk about it a lot this week, where it's kind of snuck up on everyone that this game's important now. Apparently. So there are only 2 undefeated teams left in the conference. It's not the Georgia-Texas game, Georgia-Bama. There's those big games, that everyone knew was going to, shift the dice. No, this is for, potentially a spot in the title game. This one is much more like those Georgia-Texas games, where kind of knew that there was going to be a lot of hype going into this and knew the importance of it, not just the homecoming, but also the stakes with the opponent. And yeah, Southern wasn't necessarily favored. I don't know. I don't really know what the like the spreads look
Yeah,
like for
right.
SWAC games necessarily,
Right.
but just the kind of feeling I got going into it, especially given the shakiness of Southern's 2 victories in conference. I personally felt like, and I think a lot of people felt like, that Alcorn State, even though it was on the road, was probably slightly favored going into this game. And Southern came in and didn't act like a team that had to go didn't act like a team that was the underdog, is the way I want to put it.
Right.
There are a lot of really important facets of this game that are really positive indicators that not just that this was a big win, but also potentially a turning point for the team's overall performance in the season. There are 2 really big stats that Southern struggled in immensely throughout the season going into this game. And that is first quarter points and turnover differential. So a little bit of background on that. The Southern had scored 6 points in the first quarter, and there are 6 games combined going into this game. Yeah. And it wasn't just not being able to score points. It was they couldn't move the ball to start games. They were having these atrocious starts, even in games they were winning. Even against, the lower level competition like Savannah State, I think they opened that first quarter trailing 7-3. So they were just getting bludgeoned in the first quarter of games, putting their defense on the field for, 8, 9, 10 minutes of that first quarter. And it just was a big problem. So what happens on the first drive here? Southern gets the ball, opens the drive, and 2 plays in, Kobe Dillon, boom, 60-yard run all the way down into goal-to-go territory. They actually get an engine running early on in the game. And they get stopped. They actually don't get any points on that drive. But it was just the rhythm of it. That the result of the first quarter was still pretty bad. They ended up trailing 7-0. They still didn't get any points in the first quarter of this game. But there was a lot of promise moving forward for a team that got the result they wanted anyway, that this is going in the right direction. Regardless of how big of a win this was, the Alcorn State win was, they still have to improve if they want to compete in the SWAC, win the West, and win the conference. Really big game against Florida A&M next week. We'll talk about that later. But that's a really promising sign that they can continue improving. The other one is turnover differential. This was the #1 defense in the SWAC. In SWAC play and just in general, they have been dominant in almost every single stat you can find. Pass defense, they've been elite in pass defense, and they were still elite in pass defense today, allowing, I believe, 76 yards passing the entire game. The passing defense has not allowed a 200-yard passer all season. So that is one of the biggest strengths of their team. So great pass defense, really good run defense, scoring, all of that, except for turnovers. Last in the conference in turnovers. They had 3 today. That is going to be really big. And they were really important turnovers. First, half of the first quarter, they had 2 of them. And it was just, they had a couple of momentum stops themselves. And they were able to regain the momentum quickly and kind of stay in phase early in this game, even though Alcorn State got the first punch with that big touchdown run. Southern was able to play really competitively throughout and kind of take over in the second quarter, look like the better team and the much more consistent offense, and then give up after a short turnover turns into a short field, give up a game-tying touchdown at halftime to get us to the halftime score of 14-14. But the big thing in that game was the fact that Southern was consistently able to move the ball down the field because they can convert on third downs, because they could run the ball effectively for what felt like one of the first times all season.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. Southern has had games where, whether it was Noah Bowden or Zay T-Set, and I'll talk about the quarterback situation in a second, but they had games all season where they could throw the ball or maybe they could sort of run the ball, but they were actually consistent, both explosive and consistent, getting 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards. The 2 touchdown drives they had in the first half were both 8-play drives, solid drives that were long drives and able to sustain and score. The 2 touchdown drives that Alcorn State had in the first half were a broken play off of a 4th and inches, like goal line type situation, but it's like on the 50-yard line, or they break it out and, there's no second level, so it's an easy touchdown, and then off of a short field.
Mm-hmm.
And in the second half, it showed Alcorn State could not move the ball at all. And the Southern defense, that was not just good statistically in terms of preventing yards and preventing points, but also forcing turnovers, played like a complete package. They gave up 14 points, but those 14 points were a little bit, I'm not going to say fluky, but they weren't sustainable. Mm-hmm. And eventually, the offense got clicking again in the second half and was able to separate late in the game and end up winning.
Yeah.
So the one final kind of sequence I want to talk about with this game, because I know we're a little bit, quicker today.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the fourth quarter, still tied 14-14. Southern gets the ball back, and Noah Bowden, who started the game, it felt like for the first time all season, Noah was going to be able to start and finish and play the entire game, the whole game. Yeah. That's what it looked like, because he was running the offense efficiently. It felt like he'd kind of finally taken the reins of the job after it had been very rocky. He played a lot of snaps, but never been able to play the full game. He runs on a 3rd and 14, converts it on his legs, and then as he slides, he takes this awful hit. And he stays down. Zay Tissett has to come in. And what does the offense do? They don't put the ball in his hands the entire drive. Kendrick Grimes, Kobe Dillon, again and again and again and again and again. A 15-play, 8-minute drive that ends with a very interesting decision. The correct
80-yard drive, right?
What do you say?
80-yard drive, correct?
8-minute is what I meant to say.
Oh, okay, 8 minute. Okay.
Sorry. The drive, I think, was about 60 yards.
Okay, 60.
It didn't end in a touchdown. So we get to 4 minutes left to go in the game. Yeah, 4 minutes left to go in the game. Tied 6 minutes left to go in the game. I'm mixing up games. 6 minutes left to go in the game. So one thing I just want to briefly say, there's an interesting tie between the two games that I covered this weekend, where there was a coach that decided to make the quote-unquote conservative decision late in the game to kick a field goal instead of going forward on 4th and short. One worked, one didn't, and I kind of want to explore the interesting kind of strategic implications of that decision. So, Terrence Graves, 4th and 3 from the 22-yard line with 6 minutes left to go in the game, or 7 minutes left to go in the game, tied. There are some game situations where a coach would go forward in that situation.
Yeah.
If this game is more high scoring, if you don't trust your defense to get a stop, if you feel like you need to get points on the board, you feel confident you're going to get the ball back, that sort of thing. But in this situation, there was no doubt. Graves sends out the field goal team. Josh Griffin kicks the field goal, goes up 17-14, and puts the pressure for the first time in a long time in this game for Alcorn State to have to go drive down the field, something they couldn't do all game. They can't. Eventually, a third turnover happens, a fumble recovered by, I believe Herman Brister recovered this one. And the very next play, the dam breaks open. Kendrick Grimes, 60 yards down the field. The game's over. Southern wins 24-14. And so the decision immediately brings dividends. Southern gets a huge win, a 10-point win over a team they weren't expected necessarily to beat. They could beat. It wasn't like insane upsets, but a slight upset.
It's like LSU and Ole Miss.
And a big one against a team they weren't necessarily expected to beat. And now the road through the SWAC West runs through Baton Rouge.
How about that?
Huge win for the Jags on homecoming, of course.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, on homecoming, everybody there, incredible environment from what I've heard. It's big when you're able to get a win. And this is that defense, right? The defense we talk about Southern that's so heralded going into the season. This is the defense we thought going into the season. And, if Noah Ballin can be that guy, that steady hand, right? Steady hand at the quarterback position, then they can run the football that you've seen. They got stable running backs. Their defense is really good. If Noah Ballin can be steady, not turn the football over, then this Jaguars team could be a dangerous team moving forward, like you just mentioned.
Yes. So Noah Bowden ended up feeling like, even though we didn't finish the game, he was that calming presence on the offense.
Yeah. Right.
They won this game in the formula, in a sustainable formula that I think they can take moving forward, bottle up, and actually consistently start winning games. So, we talked about the Prairie View game as kind of this weird, fluky game where crazy stuff happens. Same thing with the Texas Southern game. The defense is elite. The pass rush is great.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about Kelby Givens, but that entire front seven is great. The secondary is great, and the pass rush with the secondary makes it a team you just can't throw the football on consistently. You just can't do it. The defense didn't allow a sustaining drive, which they don't really do a lot this season unless they're playing, higher level competition, like a team that they weren't really expected to compete with. And so that brings us to the Florida A&M game. Florida A&M is, just from my cursory understanding of the SWAC, one of the more heralded programs. And one of the teams that you would, it's a bigger game, basically. It's on the road. It's a long road trip. This is a tough game. Florida A&M just lost to Jackson State.
Yeah.
So here is where we start to get what might be the narrative of this season building. Jackson State's the favorite to win the SWAC East right now. Southern is the favorite to win the SWAC West. We all know about the Boombox Classic.
Yep.
That game already happened. It wasn't a conference game. Jackson State was the better team that day.
Yep.
Southern's about to play Florida A&M the week after Jackson State just beats them by 2 touchdowns. What does that game look like?
Yeah.
Does Southern not compete with Florida A&M? Does Southern have a close game? Do they lose closely? If they lose that cushion. They lose that margin of error.
Yep.
If they win, that is really big. If they blow out Florida A&M, that's a huge statement that this team is in ascension mode. So this is the game. This is a big chapter in the story of the SWAC this season. This Florida A&M versus Southern game. They're not division rivals, but it's a conference game that has huge conference implications for both teams. And we're going to have to see what happens when Southern makes that big road trip next Saturday.
Yeah, it's a great measuring stick game, like you mentioned with Jacksonville State. Like it's going to be. And you talked about Jackson State earlier, but they played Southern earlier this year, so that's a big measuring stick game for them. So that will be next Saturday at 6 o'clock kickoff. So if you want to read more about Alex's, Alex got a bunch of post-game interviews as well in the article. He's got a complete recap. He's got some clips on there. So make sure to go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. Now, Alex, let's talk about your high school game, and I know this was a game that you had circled on your calendar for a long time, so I know we had to give you this game, and this is the first time we covered Dutchtown this year, but they have to be talked about. Dutchtown is an undefeated team going into this game. Last year, if it wasn't for Mother Nature really playing a factor last year, we're probably talking about Dutchtown playing the Superdome last year, and that game had been moved to the next day. That gave Zachary pretty much a great opportunity to regroup over that night, and they came back and beat Dutchtown that next day after bad weather really canceled the majority of that game. And we talk about this game, right? When we talk about Denham Springs been a hot and cold team. You don't know what Denham Springs team you're going to expect. Is this going to be the team that blew out Southern Lab? Is this going to be the team that lost the live vote? You just don't know what team's going to show up when Denham Springs shows up. But they are a dangerous team. Can that be the team that can dethrone Dutchtown? That's been a weird district. All these teams really is a competitive district because they all really beat each other up. But this is a big opportunity for Dutchtown to continue their undefeated season, and they took care of business against the Yellow Jackets. Alex, you were there, so got us through what let the Griffins still win and continue their undefeated season.
Yeah, so Dutchtown is an interesting perspective, I think, from our kind of little bubble, because we talk a lot every week. We haven't talked a lot about Dutchtown. We haven't covered them yet on the website. We haven't covered them yet on the show. And it just feels like one of those teams, like if you follow a lot of college football, that they're undefeated, they're crushing everyone they play for the most part. But, as the famous Paul Feinbaum clip goes, Dutchtown ain't played nobody, Paul.
Yeah, right.
That was, they played Santa Mont a couple of weeks ago, and they almost lost that game.
Yeah, they had to come back and win that game. Yeah.
They had to come back and win that game. They played a sloppy game there. They barely won. One of the weaker versions of Santa Mont, a great program, but one of the weaker versions of that team we've seen over the years. Although they've kind of come into form lately.
Yeah, and they beat East Ascension in the big rivalry game last week, so that was a big win for the Gators.
So they've been catching up some momentum. I almost went to that game, but decided to go to the Denham Springs game instead because of kind of how the teams were faring at the time.
Right.
The reason why Dutchtown is so important to me is because I live like 5 minutes away from the campus.
Yeah.
So it was easily the shortest road trip I've made for any of the games I've gone to. Not going to Lafayette or New Orleans or whatever. But this time it's literally just a quick trip down Jefferson Highway for me. So Dutchtown's sort of that team you don't talk about a lot because they haven't had a lot of games that were hyped up going into it. They've just beaten the tar out of a bunch of teams that were not at their level for the most part. So now they finally get a team that's a little bit streaky. We talked about Denham Springs. Yeah. With a quarterback that's going to our bowl game, Jerry Wang.
Yeah. Yep.
And I have some thoughts about him. And I thought he had a good game, despite the result. They host Denham Springs, and they didn't play a perfect game. You know, the power rating system is what it is. There's a reason why Dutchtown isn't as highly ranked as you would expect an unbeaten 5A team to be. I haven't seen Ruston play yet. I haven't seen Neville play. I won't see them play into the playoffs. I'm actually, hopefully, either me or somebody will be going to the Ruston Ash game next week. Yeah. So I'll get a chance to see these teams back to back.
Right.
From my guess, hearing about Ruston and Neville and all of these teams, the game Dutchtown played today would not beat any of those teams.
Yeah.
They didn't play their A game. They didn't throw their fastball. But I think a sign of a great team is a team that can find a way to win and win fairly comfortably. It ended up being a 2-score game by the end of it. They separated at the very end. Is to do that. Think about the Chiefs this year in the NFL. They've looked terrible if you've watched them, right?
Yeah.
But, we just watched the end of that game. They're 6-0 in games that they've looked whatever the whole season, but they're undefeated. Right. That's what the game felt like. They didn't play their best game, but they were able to win anyway against a pretty good Denham Springs team.
Yeah.
Because they just found a way to make the plays when it really mattered. When there was an inflection point in the game where, it could either get out of hand one way or become a dogfight or whatever, Dutchtown made the correct, whether it was a specific player, whether it was a pick, whatever it might have been, they made the play in that moment to maximize their chances of victory. So whether that was Jerry Horn Jr., who got off to an amazing start in this game, and I thought he looked pretty good in general. Again, one of the things that's important with a game like this is to get a look at him during live reps. He looked accurate. He was very confident decision maker, willing to throw into short windows. In that first 2 drives of the game, he looked unstoppable. Yeah, he was moving the ball down the field. So early in the second quarter, game starts, punt, touchdown, punt. Denham Springs is driving down the field again. And all of a sudden, Dutchtown is like, whoa, we've gotten, the cattle prod taken to us. We're going to be 14-0 or 13-0 because I think there was a missed extra point.
Yeah.
So Jerry Horn, boom, throws to the end zone, and he gets intercepted.
Okay.
And the momentum completely shifts. And Dutchtown just kind of takes over the game for a large chunk of time, ending up, I believe it was 14-6 at halftime.
Okay. And another guy I want to talk to you about is like I said, this year the running back position, unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Look, Kedron Harvey is another guy we have to talk about. Like he was on that list of guys that you don't really think about that much, but in any other year they'll be up on that list. But he's another talented running back. He had 3 touchdowns. It was a big reason why they won by 14. So tell me what you saw from Kedron in that game.
He was bigger and faster than everyone else, is what it felt like. He was just, it felt like one of those clips where the 15-year-olds playing with a bunch of 10-year-old kids and running over people. That's what it looked like. It wasn't some technical masterpiece of running back ball carrier action, but he was just strong and fast and really, really good contact balance, really able to, stay on his feet. Great on the goal line. Yeah, I mean, he is a really great athlete, a great running back. And those 3 rushing touchdowns were, they were the headline, right? That's a great game. I don't have the full stats, unfortunately, but it was just a really good game, capped off by a play I'll kind of weave into what happened in the context before this, because I think it's really important, but capped off with this great 70-yard touchdown run at the end of the game to put it on ice. That was the very end of the game. So third quarter, Denham Springs again shows this kind of hot and cold nature. They come out swinging again, end up with a chance to tie the game after a touchdown, but there's like an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and they can't go for 2, so they have to kick an extra point. Also important to remember, an extra point was missed at the beginning of the game. So the kicker is having a pretty shaky day. So that leads us to the end of the game. So it's 14-13. Dutchtown gets a drive going. They end up scoring to make it 21-13 with 9 minutes left.
Okay.
Denham Springs takes the ball and slowly matriculates it down the field for a 5-minute long touchdown drive. Excuse me, not touchdown drive, but a 5-minute long drive ends with a really interesting decision.
Okay.
So it's 4th and 2-ish, 4th and short.
So that's the situation you were talking about earlier.
This is the other decision, yes. This is the other one kind of talking. I talked about that conservative decision that was made earlier that clearly worked. This is the decision that didn't work. And I'm not going to I'm not on here to talk about, oh, what a stupid idea. Why did he do this? It was surprising. It was not the decision I expected to happen. But there's a reason why he gets paid a lot of money to make those as the head coach of a football team. So it was a really difficult choice to make in a situation like that, and he made the decision for good reason. So let me break it down. Down by 8, 4 minutes to go. 21-13 is the score, which is important. 4th and 2, maybe I would say about 2 on the 15 to 20 yard line, so high red zone. They decided to kick a field goal. And I was certainly expecting them to go for it. Yeah. But the thought process makes some level of sense. It's not super intuitive, but I've seen this work before. There was a Bama A&M game a couple of years ago where they did this. They were down by 7. They kick a field goal with 4 minutes left, and they're like, your offense is inconsistent. We just got to get a stop, and now we can threaten to win the game with a touchdown. Yeah. So that's the thought process. It ended up not working for 2 primary reasons. First, and the reason why I think the flow of the game is really important, is the fact that Dutchtown just came off of a touchdown drive. Even though the score was what it was, not that high scoring, just kind of the feel of the game.
Of it,
I don't know if you're getting the ball back, right? Is the concern. The second, how confident are you in your kicker?
Right, after missing, an extra point earlier.
And it just immediately blew up in the team's face. The field goal gets blocked. They don't hit the field goal. And 2 plays later, Lakedron Harvey, I messed it up in the interview. Lakedron Harvey, handoff, boom, up the sideline, 70 yards for a touchdown. Game's over. Had your shot. And this is an example of Dutchtown being a great team. You have to be perfect if you want to beat them. If you want to go pull off that upset, you want to knock them off. There's a reason why they're undefeated, because they are a great team. That performance was not going to beat Ruston. It was not going to beat Neville. It's not going to beat whoever they run into in the semifinals. But they might be capable of a performance like that.
Yeah, sure.
Given the fact that they were able to win the way they were.
Right.
You only get so many chances, and the chance didn't work out. It's an understandable decision, but it was a surprising one, and Dutchtown capitalized and separated, and they ended up winning the game 27-13 because of it.
Yeah, I know you got a chance to talk to Coach Mastrud. Definitely have a lot of respect for Coach Mastrud and what he's done. He's won pretty much wherever he's been at, whether it's been Redemptress, Livonia, now at Dutchtown. He's done a great job with that program over there. Obviously making the semis for the first time in program history. And just what he had to say about the team's win.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what I'm talking about with the team, not throwing their fastball, not having their best performance, is echoing his sentiments. Because I got to watch him, not just the interview that we had on the website and on our YouTube channel, but I also got a chance to look at what he said to the team afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what he was saying. That proud of his players, great win, big win in the district, of course, but it's not the best that they can do.
Right.
And they didn't play a complete game. They got beat in those first and third quarters, is what he was talking about. That Denham Springs looked like the better team in those quarters, but they were able to win. And oftentimes that's what matters. Lakeshore had a great game. He was really happy, like Dylan Chompon, the quarterback that we've been an honorable mention in Player of the Week. Didn't have a super efficient game, but he ended up, leading the team to a win. And he was super proud of his team, all of that stuff. But I think he has, again, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is parroting what he said about his team and to his team, that this wasn't an elite performance from them. Their ceiling is higher than the game they gave today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Exactly. And you talk about Dylan Champagne, the quarterback. I mean, he can throw it, and that gives him that extra element they've haven't really always had, but given that extra element as well, that makes this team really dangerous. So this is a really good football team. They're going to bring their A game when they need to, and they got some big games down the road as well. Alex, appreciate you as always, man. Keep up the good work, and we'll catch up next week, see how Southern does, and we'll also talk about the high school game you cover. I mean, most likely, I know we're probably talking about it tomorrow a little bit, but good chance, and maybe Rustin and Ash, so we get to see that game for the first time. We covered them and talked about them a whole lot, but to actually see them, what would be really great. But keep up the good work, Alex, and we'll talk next week on Ballin the Boot.
Thank you. Of course, as always.
Welcome, guys, to another segment of Ballin in the Boot. I'm your host, Jace Lejeune for Gridiron Football, and we get to also introduce somebody to the Gridiron Football family on the show in Ballin the Boot. And I know Logan for a long time when I was at Southeastern and we were going to class together. But Logan Graffia, Logan, thanks for joining, man. Congratulations, join the Gridiron Football family. I know you're going to be covering some Southeastern, some New Orleans Saints as well. So appreciate you coming on, my man. How's everything going?
Thanks for having me on, Jace. I feel like this has been a long time coming. I've known you since the Southeastern channel when I was one of the older guys, or the vets as you call it at the channel, and you was just starting. So I'm glad to finally be able to start working with you, and even Coach Andy, who literally coached me for a day, and that's how we connected. So I'm happy to be a part of the team, as well as talk about the Saints and covering Southeastern, where you and I both went. I'm looking forward to everything, and even get my feet wet back in the high school ranks, covering, the St. Tammany area, which I think is an underrated area of football.
Yeah, you're right, Logan. I mean, there's been some really good football this year in that area. I mean, we talk about Mandeville has been one of the best teams in the state at the 5A level. Covington's having a pretty good season, and then we'll talk about the game that you're at on Friday night. And as Pope John Paul was the number one team in the power rankings heading into that game, just got a big win over St. Martin's Episcopal. If anybody's living on a rock, they have a pretty decent running back named Harlan Berry, number one running back in the country, the LSU commit. And they're playing against a good Northlake Christian team. I've seen Northlake Christian play against Episcopal earlier this year, and I was really impressed by their team and knew this could be kind of a trap game for Pope John Paul going in, and it turned out it was. Logan, you were there, you were at the game, so break it down for us and guide us through what was a pretty big win for the Wolverines.
So before the game had started, it was like a big family reunion. On one side, on Northlake Christian, you had Coach Blaine Bond, the defensive backs coach, who was the head coach for my semi-pro team for many years. Got to talking with him about what I should expect. And then on the other side, it was like one of my former teammates on the Cardinals was the wide receivers coach, Mark Monet, and then a former high school coach of mine, Artie Lauz, and then a principal, Wang Grubb. I was talking with Coach Grubb extensively before the game, asking him, how the heck did Pope lure you out of retirement and get you away from Slato High? And then he started explaining that Coach Artie Lauz, who ran the wing tee when I was at Slato High for a season before he retired. And he was explaining to me the X's and O's, which I absolutely love. And when he told me they literally run, I think, 3 plays to one side and 2 to the other, I'm thinking, okay, all Northlake Christian has to do is just pay attention to their reads, downhill gap movements, everything, all that good X's and O's stuff. And throughout the game, the first quarter was literally just a defensive battle. You was looking to see which team is going to break first. And it was Pope, because Northlake Christian struck first on the field, a short field goal. And then as the game went on, you start saying, okay, Pope is moving the ball. They're moving the ball, but, you know, Northlake Christian is now, okay, getting big stops. And it was the big man in the middle, number 77, Lee Dotrieve, I believe. Yeah, it was Lee Dotrieve, making his presence known, filling the A gaps. And he's running all over the field. I've never seen a big man move like that, but it's like these days, everybody who's big can move that fast. But
they can move, yeah.
So the wing T offense is, I hate to say it, it's easy to stop if you know what you're doing. So Northlake Christian and Coach Willis, hats off to them and their game plan and their scheme going into the game. From what I've seen, Northlake Christian talking with everybody before the game, saying don't sleep on Northlake Christian. Don't let their record fool you. They're 3-3, but they've been in some tough games. So going into it, I'm thinking, okay, this is a David versus Goliath thing. Let's see how Northlake Christian can step up, and can they? And they answered the call throughout that game. I mean, they're one player, I gotta say, Charlie Gilmore. He was playing both sides of the ball, and that's number 4. He was the first player I actually noticed out there. I'm like, okay, I gotta write him down. Who is this kid?
Right.
So he was just all over the place. It was a really good game, and it was an upset. The underdog got the win. I'm always loving a good underdog story. So all in all, it was a really good matchup.
Absolutely. Logan Graffia joined us here for a ball in the boot. And Logan, I know their backfield, the Northlake Christian, talking about a little bit. I know Luca Blanc is a pretty talented thrower of the football. And they got a hoss back there in the backfield too, and Cameron Casnave as well. So just talk about how they're able to move the ball against a pretty good Pope John Paul defense. I know DJ Jenkins is over there, and I know that you talked to Andy, and it's like, well, but you can't really miss out on old DJ on the edge, number 5. So he's definitely been a big-time addition for them, now getting ruled eligible. But, yeah, tell me about really that offense and how they were to move the ball against a pretty good Pope John Paul defense.
So when I was at the game, the way that, you know, Northlake Christian was able to strike first on the touchdown side of things instead of just a field goal, they threw a gadget play in there, and number 12, his name escapes me at the moment, it was on a halfback pass, ran it on a reverse, and threw it to number 4, Charlie Gilmore, in the back of the end zone, wide open for, I want to say, over 20 yards, and it was outstanding. I mean, that offense that Northlake Christian was running, at first, it was a battle of the ground and pound games. Because, as you know, Pope runs the wing T, and then there's Northlake Christian. I didn't know what I was going in expecting. So they was getting a run game going, and number 2, I want to say Willis, was just going at. They was hit sticking him. Don't get me wrong, but he was kept coming downhill, trucking people, and once they got a little bit of momentum going, it was hard to stop, and it was kind of hard to stop the bleeding because, I mean, Pope's defense was good. I mean, it was like they were swarming the ball, and I mean that's literally what I wrote down in my notes. Pope's defense was swarming it like a pack of wild jaguars. So the Northlake Christian run game was really good, and it really helped set up the passing game later on in the game, which I think was a key factor for Northlake's win in this game.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that and see what paid dividends, because it was a close game. I mean, it was a 6-point game. And those type of games, I mean, they can go either way. And did you felt like going into it was just Pope John Paul? Do you think they were just going through the motions and maybe thinking after a big win against a team like St. Martin, like, hey, we can probably we're at that point where we can just win this football game now? Did they come in a little too cocky, or was it just great plays made on the other side by Northlake Christian?
I think it could be a little bit of both. You know, as a former player, you get told don't get overconfident, don't get cocky, don't go into any game where you think it's already won. I don't think Pope came into the game thinking that the game was already won. I just think Northlake Christian had a really good game plan from Coach Willis, and they followed it to a T. And even when, you know, Pope was trying to deliver more blows just to catch up in this fight, heavyweight fight, as I want to call it. Northlake Christian never got knocked down to the canvas. They just kept, they kept their setup. They just kept coming after Pope. And I mean, I know Pope was the favorite in this game. It's just Northlake Christian, I think's defense was the real winner of this game. I mean, of course, like I said, Charlie Gilmore, I mean, was the player of the game for me, but it was Northlake Christian's defensive scheme. Just the whole game plan. I got to give credit to Coach Willis. So I don't necessarily think Pope came in too cocky. It's possible, but the wing tee, and I'm not trying to downplay anything Pope has done, but as a former player, the wing tee is easy to stop if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But just good coaching on Northlake Christian side. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, you're right, and that's a big word too, because I've seen Pittsburgh run that wing tee, and they run it to perfection. When you can run that, to perfection, it's tough to stop. I mean, when you get like 4 or 5 yards every play,
Exactly.
there's a reason why John Curtis has won so many state championships. Haynesville's won so many state championships, so it's tough to defend. But to your point, if you know how to stop it, then you're going to have success. So that's the biggest thing there. You mentioned Cameron Casnave, number 2. Try and imagine finishing your biology test or your math test, and you have to go on a Friday night and tackle 6'1", 225-pound Mack truck running the football. What were your impressions of seeing him in person?
Well, like you said, he was a Mack truck. I mean, when you get closer to when you're sitting far away, you don't get the whole big picture. But when you're finally walking on the field after the game, you're like, sheesh, this guy really is, like you said, Jace, a Mack truck, 6'1", over 200 pounds. Now, I know I wouldn't want to be tackling him these days, and this is why I'm retired and I'm not out there tackling people anymore. But my first impression of him was, man, he's really a true power back. And when he got out in open, out in open space a few times, go out down the sideline, and it took quite a few of those Pope Jaguars defenders to get him to the ground. But I was just blown away from what I've seen. And this is my first time, seeing both of these teams in action. So I was kind of impressed. I was really impressed because I'm a huge fan of the power back, even though these days in the modernized football, it's always about finesse. But I was really impressed with his game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's definitely one of the more underrated running backs out there. You still got another year after this, which is even scarier. It's like, hey, you still got another year to deal with this guy. That's going to be something. And you mentioned that Luc LeBlanc, pretty much the big play was the Gavin Hunter. I mean, I think it was a 94-yard touchdown there, and it seemed like that was pretty much sealed the deal. So it was one of those games. You look at 27-21. It's like, man, this must have been a really close game at the very end, but it seemed like that it was actually a more of a convincing win in Northlake Christian than you really see from the scoreboard.
Absolutely, and when I'm sitting on the pad where where all those track people jump over the pole vault and everything, and I got to see the Gavin Hunter 94-yard touchdown up close and personal. It was literally just on tight end, little flat pass, and I'm thinking they're going to tackle this guy, and he broke about 4, 5, 6 tackles, and he's running up the sidelines, and I couldn't believe it. I'm trying to write it down as fast as I'm seeing it.
Yeah,
and that's when I said, okay, Northlake Christian's going to come out of here with the win, and the score doesn't tell the full story. I think Northlake Christian, I mean, they was up by 2 scores with just minutes left to go in the game, around 2 minutes to go. Pope got a garbage time touchdown, but I think the Gavin Hunter play was probably the play of the game. It was incredible to see. And, Charlie, like I said, I keep talking about Charlie Gilmore because, I mean, he was just all over the place. I know I've mentioned his name quite a few times. It's just, you got to see it to believe. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, and then he had he was playing corner on one of the plays. He had a pick in the end zone, and I couldn't believe he actually caught the ball over this guy. So, it was a really good game. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, in two-way, a lot of times you want to ask some of your best guys to play both ways, and Charlie Gilmore stepped up really big with 2 touchdowns and an interception on defense, like you mentioned, Logan. To wrap this thing up, first of all, talk about Pope John Paul. This is like we haven't really seen this amount of success from Pope John Paul. Coach Paya does a great job with this team, this program, and that they're starting to really believe in what he's preaching, and you can tell. I mean, being number 1 in the power ranking, 6-0 start, all of that. But now is a big step for their program. Okay, like you're dealing with success. Like, how do you deal with that success? So that's kind of like the next step for this program. And after a loss, where do you think this Pope John Paul team can go after getting some adversity, getting a loss? Where do you think this team can go moving forward?
So going forward, it depends on how they deal with the adversity. How do you deal with a loss? Do you just sit back and say, "Oh man, we lost. We're not going undefeated anymore," and just lay down, or are you just going to get up, keep fighting the rest of the season? I mean, it's 1 loss. You're 6-1 now. Okay, you got a lot of football left. You got 3 games left, I want to say, of the season, and you still got the playoffs. You can go really far if you can overcome this adversity. Sometimes all you need to do is get punched in the mouth in one of these games to really see what your team is made of. Pope got punched in the mouth against Northlake Christian. Okay, now we're going to really see how this Pope John Paul Jaguars team is, what are they really made of, and see what Coach Pagoat is really made of as a coach. Can he rally the troops and rally his team together to keep moving and pushing forward? Because that Pope team is a really good team. Now, it's like you said, this is the first time we've ever seen Pope so successful. Because, I mean, I remember when I was playing high school ball, we always used to forget about that Pope was in town because they wasn't really a winning program. But now they're getting a little taste of success. How do you sustain that? You keep working, you keep rallying the troops, you just stay as one, and just everyone in the locker room stay together and just keep fighting. I mean, like I said, 3 games left of the regular season. You got to keep pushing forward. That's what I would do. I mean, I think going forward, they should be successful. I don't know how far they're going to go in the playoffs, but I like what I've seen. They're a really good wing team, power run team, so I think they'll be okay.
And then finally, we have to end it with the winning team. We talk about David versus Goliath. You talked about so much in your pregame as well. Pregame video you shot as well. And David did sling that stone, and then it did land on Goliath. So you saw it. That actually helped out. And you talked to James Willis. I mean, he was a former NFL linebacker as well, played in the league. And, this is a good team. And a lot of people kind of forgot about them just because, like you said, they've lost a couple of games, but they did have a tough schedule. I remember talking about the schedule on the stream. I called the game against Episcopal, and it's like, man, this is a tough. They played like Lakeshore after that, after Episcopal, and they had some tough games. But this was like a reminder, I guess, that, hey, don't forget about us. We're still very dangerous. What did Coach Willis have to say about the game since you talked to him after the fact?
He said they was ready to play. They've been wanting to play against a wing T team all season long. They were prepared. And I asked him, what was he telling his guys in the locker room? Just stay focused, stay the course, basically one of those coach speak type of things. Sure. And, I mean, I asking him, what game going forward is circled on your schedule? He said the next one. So it was just giving me a lot of coach speak answers. Yeah. And after talking with him, I mean, he had I can't really remember off the top of my head the full quote that he told me, but he told me, he told those guys in the locker room, basically just be ready. But he also said, that's a good football team that we played. He said, Pope is a really good football team, and we just be a really good football team. But I think Northlake Christian Coach Willis delivered a really good message in that locker room, I believe. And I think going forward, Northlake Christian could be one of those sleeper teams going into the playoffs.
Absolutely. You're right about that, Logan. That's going to be one of those teams you might say, they might be a lower seed, but they can beat you on any given day. So appreciate you, Logan. Welcome aboard. We're going to be talking to you more and more often, and we're definitely going to talk more about not only high school games you cover, but we're also going to try to get you hooked up with the Saints and also with Southeastern as well, so that way we get some coverage there too. I know Logan keeps his eye on the Saints and a whole lot, so we're going to make sure we get him over there with the Saints, and he's covered the Saints before, so we're definitely going to try to do that. But Logan, welcome to the family, man, and if you need anything, always let me know, man.
Thank you, Jace. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the future.
Oh, absolutely, Logan. Hey guys, welcome to another segment of Ballin in the Boot. I'm your host, Jace Lejeune, and we got Isharay Jones joining us, and he was at Olympia Stadium for a big district matchup between the Plaquemine Green Devils and the St. Michael Warriors. And you still have Istrouma involved in that district title race too, but the winner of this game was going to sit pretty good in that district title race. And going to the season, I actually picked the Plaquemine Green Devils to win this district, and they are showing right now that they're probably the toughest guys to beat right now. The Green Devils are rolling, and they put a 60-burger over St. Michael. Isharay, you were there, so you saw a lot of points being scored on the scoreboard from the Green Devils. Just what do you think of their offense and how explosive they are?
It's very explosive, very, very fast paced, especially throughout the first like 3 quarters. It was constant no huddle, just like trying to catch St. Michael off guard throughout the entire game. They just were relentless with it, just using their run game, using no huddle just to keep catching them off guard.
Yeah, and they're running back. Like I said, every week. I don't know who I'm talking to, Isharay. I can talk with you, Darryl, Allison. It doesn't matter. But every time we talk, there's a good running back being that plays
Every single week.
Every
Every
single
single
week.
week.
Every single week. And Tyrese Mosby is another guy that's just a really good running back.
Okay.
And he had himself I guess he's in the nominations, right, Isharay, for Gridiron Football Player of the Week. So I think 4 touchdowns nice to talk about his performance.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure there was no statistician right after the game, but I'm pretty sure he had over 200 yards and he had 4 touchdowns on the game. He was crazy. He was just an extreme power runner, and he was a problem for them, honestly. And it's always a good running back every week, it feels like. I was talking to the cameraman at the game. He was just saying, like, there's a whole bunch of good running backs all across Louisiana. And I've realized that because even their backup running back, Darryl, he had 2 rushing touchdowns too. Like, just there's all these good running backs everywhere.
Yeah, it seems like they're both veterans. Tyrese Mosby is a veteran running back. You have Nico Victorian. He's back for really a full season after really getting the start mid-season last year for Plaquemine, and he's a veteran senior quarterback. That's a pretty decent quarterback as well. So what did you see from Nico, his performance?
Yes, so he had multiple pass touchdowns for his team. He was actually really good. He was a good scrambler. He had a really nice and solid arm. He could do a good deep ball. He's really good with his deep balls. I think he had 2 really deep passing touchdowns, like both over 40 yards, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was a problem for them all night. And then just staying with the no huddle is going to keep catching them off guard, especially when you can move the way he can move, just get around the pocket and scramble. It was definitely a problem for St. Michael.
Yeah, it's like, who do you defend? You have Nico at quarterback.
They have good receivers, 2 good running backs.
That stood out. So
yes, sir, they had.
Yep.
Yeah, Cameron Rogers. They had a whole bunch of really good receivers, honestly, but it was just like a team effort, honestly, with all these receivers. They were all really good, and I think the best receiver that I saw from the game was actually the receiver from St. Michael, though. I'll be honest.
Okay.
He had plenty like possession catches, especially towards the end of the game where they were fighting back, so they had to pass the ball every play. His name is Johnny McCarthy. He was actually really good.
Player,
He was coming down with one-handers, just everywhere, sideline catches, deep balls, back shoulders. He was actually really impressive, I'll be honest.
Yep.
But Plaquemine has really good receivers too, though.
Yeah, and let's go talk about St. Michael a little bit. I've covered St. Michael a couple times, so I know what other programs are like. Last year St. Michael beat Plaquemine last year, so that was this is like a district title rematch per se. That was one of St. Michael's biggest wins in their program history was against Plaquemine last year. So it hasn't happened that often, but Plaquemine came in with a lot of motivation, to avenge last year's loss, and just talk about how motivated Plaquemine was for this football game. They had been pretty spirited by the way that they played.
Yeah, so I could sense how motivated they were, especially when St. Michael got the ball first to start the game, and they went down and scored. And just about maybe a minute later, Plaquemine went down and scored again, and then they both took a couple possessions off. St. Michael went back and scored, and right after, about 30 seconds later, Plaquemine scored again. And after that, they just went on their big run of the whole game, started scoring and scoring and scoring, just going on this big run. You could tell they needed this game. You could tell they wanted that.
Yeah, and St. Michael, they have a pretty good running back too. John Martinez on the other side, and he actually had to lead the game early. But it seems like, I mean, 28 points is nothing to sneeze at. It's not like that they were shut out too of the end zone, but it just seems like they just could not get in a shootout with the Green Devils.
Yes, sir. Honestly, I think the game could have been different if John Martinez didn't get hurt because early in the game he was definitely a problem for him. He had some crazy runs and he was taking about 2, 3 kids to tackle him every time. He was a big part of their offense. And then he went down early in the game, thinking about the second quarter. And after that, their offense definitely slowed down. And Nathan Saylor, the back running back, he stepped up and he played well, but just the tone for the energy and everything was just different for that team after that. Because then they started
Yeah.
trailing by 20 something. They got to start passing the ball every time. That's not how they're wired. They're a running team. It just changed the whole outcome of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is a big loss. He's like really the motor, like
Oh, yes, sir.
the engine of the offense. I mean, it runs through Martinez. It
Yes, sir.
does.
He reminds me of Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah,
Just a short, compact running back, just runs really hard.
tough runner. He
So,
really is. But Plaquemine was able to get the revenge, and he talked to Coach Williams after the game. He's a young head coach,
very young.
very young, up and coming head coach. He's not that much older than I am. I mean, like he's pretty up, but he's one of the up and coming, rising young head coaches out there. What did he have to say about the team's win when you were able to catch up with him after the game?
Yeah, so he was just telling me how they started off really slow, but then and he recognized how good St. Michael actually is. But then he just talked about how they're just a resilient team, how they just keep fighting, how they keep going. And I asked him about how they were able just to be so dominant in the second half because teams are tired, teams ready to get done with the game. But he says at practice they have this the second half of their practice they call it I forgot what it's called, but they
Mhm.
just go hard towards the end. They turn it up
Yeah.
another notch just so they can be prepared for the second half of games. And he just teaches all them kids just how to just have good stamina, how to finish, how to fight towards the very end, no matter what the score is. And also, he was just adamant on just this game is just one game, but we're on to the next week. Just gonna get right back to work. In those exact words.
Yeah, and right now they're motivated. Their only loss this year was the opening game of the season, and that
So,
was against the Zachary Broncos. And we know how good Zachary has been. I mean, the last decade. So
yes,
that's
sir.
not a bad
Undefeated in
loss.
district. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Very undefeated in district right now.
yeah, and they got one. I mean, I know going down the road, just kind of think on the top of my head, I know Istrouma is going to be a big district game, most likely for the district championship. So, from what you've seen from Plaquemine, uh, where does this team? I know you've seen a couple of different teams this year. What are your thoughts on this team, and not only if they can win the district championship, in your opinion, but how far do you think this team? What's their highest ceiling you think for this football team moving forward?
For the ceiling, I see a good deep playoff run, honestly. This team has a
Mhm.
really explosive offense, and a big offense in high school can take you anywhere. I think their defense leaves a little bit to be desired, and they
Mhm.
can get better in some aspects on that, but their offense could take you a far place. And their defense didn't play bad, though. It's just when the team's fighting from behind the whole game and throwing and being aggressive, you're bound to let up a couple points, a couple touchdowns. So the defense is still good, but I see a high ceiling for this team. They could definitely make it deep in the playoffs and have a good run, especially with this explosive offense that's going to keep making other teams tired with no huddle. It could be a problem for anybody.
Yeah, I mean Plaquemine, well, as far as talent is concerned, they've always had talent. And if you think about it right now, the Louisiana high school that has produced the most current NFL talent is Plaquemine High School right
That's
now.
crazy.
I mean, Devon Godchall's in the lead right now. Dontavian Wicks from the Green Bay Packers. He was from Plaquemine High School. Percy Butler, uh, and they Kevin Dotson. He's on the offensive line. So they have about five or six NFL guys right now from Plaquemine High School. So they've always had the talent, and we'll see how far this talented Green Devils football team goes in the future. Isharay, any final thoughts about this game before we wrap up?
It was a very good win for Plaquemine. I think player of the game was Tyrese Mosley, the way he was just able to
Yeah.
dominate the entire defense throughout the whole night with 4 touchdowns and what I'm sure is over 20 yards. And I look forward to seeing the next game next week.
Absolutely, Isharay. Keep up the good work, my man. And we'll talk next week on Ball in the Boot and see what high school game you cover next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Ballin' in the Boot. I'm your host, Jace Lejeune, alongside Zach Wade, our high school beat writer here for Gridiron Football. And Zach was at one of the best rivalries you can see in Louisiana high school football. I still think there's two games going on at one time. The one actually on the field and the one in the student sections, because like that's two games going on at one time. But this rivalry never disappoints. It was a great one. It's a great game to go see. I have to get at least somebody to go and see that. And the rivalry didn't disappoint, and the game certainly didn't disappoint on the field. So Zach, you were there. Take us through it a little bit.
I mean, Santa Mont came out swinging. First play, they drove down the field, huge pass, 85 yards to start out the game, and then they handed off to the running back to get in there. And then I believe they fumbled. Santa Mont East Ascension actually fumbled their first possession and gave the Gators the ball back, and they scored 14-0. And it was really all defense after that. There wasn't much scoring. I think late into the second quarter, the Spartans finally found their way in there with a run. But other than that, it was really just an all defensive type game. Defensively, there was a lot of sacks, a lot of interceptions. I know 2 fumbles for EA, but then on the other side, the Spartan defense actually came up clutch with 2 interceptions, one actually in the end zone, which really helped them out. It could have helped out, but not really. They couldn't really they couldn't really get anything clicking on offense. And they even missed a field goal that was a doink off the right post. And after that, the EA really just couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, it seems like this Sandmall team, it's great for them, for Coach Oliver, for them to finish a game. There were times where they've jumped out to big leads. They had chances to win the games. They didn't. You were there. The first time that you ever got a chance to really cover a game with us, you were shadowing me, and it was Sandmall and JFK. They had at the pit. They had chances to win that football game. Couldn't close the deal there. They jumped out to a big lead over Dutchtown, who's undefeated right now. Didn't close that game, but it's great that Sandmall, I'm sure for Coach Oliver, especially for Sandmall to start the game really fast, but at the same time find a way to close the deal and win.
Exactly. And that's and I kind of talked to Coach Oliver about that after the game. He said that was just that's his biggest struggle right now, is having his team be able to play all 4 quarters and not just play one half of football and then take off the rest. And so that was one thing we kind of talked about after the game. So it was nice to hear his kind of perspective. And he was really happy with the win. It's a rivalry win. So any type of win is really good, especially with it being a district game too. So.
Yeah, it was came out quickly. For Sandmall. Cooper Babin was the quarterback for Sandmall. He threw a 77-yard touchdown, I believe, to Timothy Johnson, and then that set up a touchdown run from there from Tyree Williams. I think he scored twice, and early on, I was like, your East Ascension was like, you blink and you're down 14-0, but
fast.
But you gotta give credit to East Ascension. They battled back in this football game, and the game was only 17-12.
They did battle back, and it came down to the very last minute, and it came down to a heartbreaking drop pass. 2 minutes left. They were driving down the field, and not once but twice did they drop the ball in the end zone, and it was just heartbreaking. Both guys wide open, left on an island, just couldn't bring it in, and it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, and you got a chance to really talk. You talk about that. It was a turnover at the end that really made the difference. So, just how big was it for this defense to come up big? After blowing a couple leads, and for them to finish and have a chance to really prevent East Ascension from doing the same thing that's been happening to them all year long.
They were making big plays, big stands all game, but just to come right there at the end, I think really sealed it for them. Because just to take them out, and because they had a little bit of momentum going in, because they had just scored a touchdown to make it, I think, 17-12, and so they didn't. Unfortunately, they didn't get the 2 points, but they did score that touchdown, and I think they got an onside kick. I'm not sure, but either that or there was an interception. But I know they got the ball back pretty fast, and that fumble, they just seemed like they couldn't hold on to the ball quite often.
Yeah, I've heard that
because he fumbled quite a few times.
Yeah, and I heard like turnovers were really big for East Ascension. And that was a big reason why.
Yeah, it was like off bats, handoffs, and just guys just getting the ball, no ball security really.
Yeah, and I mean, East Ascension battled back. They made it, like you said, it was 14-6, I believe, at halftime, right? And
yeah,
being 17-12. Just if you're Coach Mathern, you have to be a little disappointed knowing that you were right there. You gave him a 14-point cushion, and the turnovers, some of the bad mistakes, end up really costing you, especially in a close rivalry like this, a close game like this. That's going to make the difference. And Coach Mathern and really the Spartans are going to really talking about this week what could have been.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's 2 drop passes. It really is what could have been if just one of those guys, because one of them was in the guy's hands, and then you can see it just fall, and everyone's like whole morale just dropped. It was just tough. It was tough to see.
Yeah, but this is a really a tough district. I mean, they really beat each other up. I mean, this is an underrated district, and like anybody can be anybody on any given Friday, and that was just a case in this rivalry that San Juan was able to get the upper hand, and this could be a type of game just to close the book on this game. But this could be a type of game for San Juan to like really get them a lot of momentum heading to the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean they looked good defensively. I think offensively there's some things they can work on, but defensively they looked really good. They looked like they could really stop anybody who they play if they really put their minds to it.
And Zach, you've been to a couple games already. I know you're a Mississippi guy, so you're just getting really the taste of Louisiana high school football here. But just your impressions of this game as an outsider, right? Just going in. Not really have to know much about this rivalry and just about this game coming in, and just talk about the atmosphere, the experience, these 2 games. What were your overall experiences with this football game?
It was absolutely nuts. I mean, away stands were packed, home stands were packed. The away student section was pretty impressive. They were really loud all game. The home student section, they were really good. They had streamers and all the bells and whistles. They got the powder and the whatnot. But it was crazy. I mean, every big play, it was just a roar of a crowd, just wow, just right there. I mean, and especially like I said, the light show. I have never seen a light show at a high school before, and that caught me by surprise. That was really cool.
Yeah, they bring it all out. I guarantee you. When San Juan and EA when they play each other, really the biggest thing is Zach, when it comes to this, with how close these parishes are, what these schools are and communities are, that San Juan's going to have 365 days of bragging rights. So so San Juan's definitely going to bring it to them for at least another year.
At least. I'm sure they'll be toting that around for a minute.
Yeah, for a good minute. And that's what makes high school football so pure. Just great rivalries like these. And Zach, you were able to witness that and be a part of it. Keep up the good work, Zach, and we'll catch up next week and we'll talk about what game you cover next week for Ballin the Boot.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, welcome to another segment of Ballin in the Boot. I'm your host, Jace Lejeune, and I'm joined by I'm gonna just deem you this guy, Jacob. You're a Istrouma guy, so you're the Istrouma guy, Jacob. So, but it was a very important game. Istrouma was able to take care of business, winning 31-0 over the Buccaneers at Broadmoor. But it means a little bit more than that because Sid Edwards had himself a milestone win. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, he elapsed 200 wins in his career. Obviously, luckily did it at home and on homecoming. So, I mean, it was just an eventful night. We did have a kind of a delay at the back half of the second quarter. because they had people rolling around the track with slingshots with the homecoming court, and they were blaring music. So
Okay.
it wasted about like 10 minutes of just trying to figure out like what are they doing. So, but I mean, that was like the most eventful thing that happened in really the first half, because the whole first half really, offensively on both sides, it was real sloppy. Broadmoor had 2 fumbles in the first half,
Mm-hmm.
and then really, I mean, I don't want to do it to Kyrie, but he probably had his worst game so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
He had a wide open touchdown that he just bobbled in the end zone, and then Broadmoor corner just played a really good play on it and intercepted it. And then I think maybe two drives later, Kyrie fumbles the ball, and then Broadmoor recovers. So I mean, he definitely did not put out one of like his usual Kyrie Paul shows, especially for homecoming. But I'm pretty sure he didn't practice all week. I think he had some academic stuff going on that he had to do. But I mean, to replace Kyrie basically in the run game, I don't know his full name, but all the coaches just call him Mello, number 23 for Istrouma. He definitely came in, ran with some aggression. I mean, they couldn't get him down after the first hit. He couldn't go down, but he ended with a game with probably 50 something yards and 2 touchdowns. So I mean,
yeah, pretty good night. Pretty good
yeah.
night.
I think offensively he gets the game ball, but I think defensively and just like the whole game, I think Jeremiah Coleman, which I think he should definitely be getting more coverage. I think he's an outstanding talent, especially playing both linebacker and running back. He didn't play much running back in the first half, but in the second half they started leaning on him a lot because he just wanted to go out there and just pop someone. And I mean, obviously, you're coming from defense to offense, so you just have that automatic instinct just to go out there and just bang right on someone. But yeah, he started the fourth quarter with a touchdown, and then really it was just a so-so performance from Istrouma's offense, but also it was the defense trying to figure out how to stop the wing T offense of Broadmoor.
Yeah,
which
is a little dynamic.
Which is a very weird looking offense.
Yeah. Well, I'm used to it, Jacob. I have to call a pistol every single week of them running it. So I've seen a lot of the wing tee this year, that's for sure. But it seemed like the defense did a good job of handling it, because they did pitch a shutout, on that side of the football. So tell me a little about how the defense actually did in defending that.
I mean, defensively, Jeremiah, this was really Jeremiah Coleman defensive excellence.
Yeah,
he was timing the blitzes perfectly to shoot through the gaps and just cause disruption in the backfield, because that whole offense is based off of you better get your blocks right, or someone's gonna get in this backfield and tackle you.
Yep.
And I mean, they did a great job of controlling the offensive line, and that's how Istrouma got 3 fumble recoveries off of Broadmoor.
Yeah, and they pretty much controlled the game from kickoff, though, right? I mean, they went to that locker room. 18-0 was the
18-0 at half.
Yeah, so they just cruise control, it seemed like, in this game. And you talk about Jeremiah Coleman as a guy we really need to talk about, and we covered him a couple of times. We talked about it on the show, brought his name up a couple of times, and it's good to get that kind of supporting cast. I mean, Kyrie Paul, as great as he is, and as explosive as he is, and college football player you'll be seeing on Saturdays as well. It's good that the team was there to back him up, when he wasn't at his absolute best, right?
Yeah, I think definitely this week they definitely need to be on their A game every single practice, because they got a very, very difficult task Friday night against West Feliciana.
Yeah,
who is, I believe, is undefeated. Or no, I think they have 3 losses because they scheduled some really hard opponents early on in the season.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough task for Istrouma. And then you also have, this could be somewhat of a, and I guess to get your opinion on this, because you're getting pretty close to the program there, but maybe somewhat of a trap game, because moving forward, I know Istruma's got their eyes on Plaquemine as far as like how they've been playing this year. But you have them coming up, and then you have Plaquemine, St. Michael. So yeah, I mean, maybe you're looking at maybe a little bit too far ahead. So this could be a potential trap game if West Feliciana's played a lot of teams tough this year. So you got to be at your best for this.
Yeah, but I think Istrouma definitely did schedule this game at the perfect time because it just looks like everybody on Istruma's team is healthy or available, either academically or just transfer eligible. But I mean, this team's at full capacity right now. It did miss a couple people for this game due to some academic stuff, but minus for that, this team is at 100% strength. But I definitely think it's going to be an interesting game going to Westphal this Friday.
Yeah, and then obviously we have to talk about Sid winning 200 games, and it's really cool because Sid really got his coaching start, in this zip code in this area in 70806, right? So he talks about that. He brings that zip code up a lot because that's pretty much where he got his start at, and he's won a whole lot. Redemptress, he's won a whole lot of football games. At Central, he's won a lot of football games. So, and then now he's at Istrouma. So, he's always been a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve, obviously, but. Just being around him, the celebration, the team, the players celebrating it. What was that like to see that all in action with them celebrating his 200th win?
I mean, usually he's a lot more soft-spoken after the games, especially after wins. He's not a very loudly vocal coach, but he speaks with emphasis when he speaks. So I mean, but this one after, well, he was probably freezing when he was giving the speech. But he got a nice little cooler shower.
Yeah.
On a pretty chilly night. So I mean, I got the picture of him looking like a mummy wrapped in towels.
I see it on the article. Yeah, I see it.
So yeah, he got to go to the coach, and he was just super proud of what they did tonight, especially against a Broadmoor team that could shock some teams with that weird wing tee offense.
Yeah, and they're coming off a win the previous week. I believe they were playing Terra, and they got a win the previous week. So this was a good test for Istrouma, and congratulations as well to Coach Edwards. That's awesome, getting 200 wins. That's really cool, and see the players celebrate that and see him get a little emotional about it. I've heard him on the news actually talk about it a little bit, getting a little choked up, a little teary-eyed about it. So that was pretty cool to see. And yeah, Jacob, keep up the good work, man. I know Istruma's moving right along. They're right in the thick of district play, so it's definitely going to be a couple weeks left in the regular season. It's insane that we're coming down to this point. But any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think right now Istruma's sitting real good. I think probably they finished third or fourth in district because I think the two top dogs right now are Westphal and Plaquemine. But I think you toss a coin 100 times. I think it goes 50-50 with the St. Michael game. I think they wish they could redo that game over because I think they could be undefeated at this point. But I think that showed in comparison to where they are against Plaquemine and Westphal. But I think they just need to have their A game when it comes to West Feliciana.
Well, this next 2 weeks is going to really show what kind of regular season this is for the Indians, because like you mentioned, the biggest 2-week stretch coming up against the Saints, and then follow that up with the Plaquemine Green Devils as well. Jacob, continue your good work, man, and we'll talk next week on Ball in the Boot. Hello, guys. Well, welcome to another segment of Ballin' in the Boot. I'm your host, James Lejeune. I'm joined by Deven Johnson. He is our high school beat writer and our Tulane beat writer for Gridiron Football. It's always great catching up with Deven, and it's a great time to talk about the Green Wave. It's a great time to talk about high school football going on as well. So, Deven, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, Jace? Thank you for having me again, and I'm excited to be here as always.
Absolutely, man. It's our pleasure. So let's talk about the Green Wave. Right now, it's a pretty good week in Louisiana college football. I'm going to talk about LSU, which I cover, and they're right now they got a big game against Texas A&M next week for first place in the SEC. And then we talk about Southern, who Alex is covering, Alex Allison, one of our beat writers. They are right now sitting on top of the SWAC West. And then let's talk about the Tulane Green Wave, because they're right there in terms of conference championship. And also, they're in the conversation right now. See who would be that group of 5 that can make the college football playoff. And right now, this Tulane Green Wave team is in that conversation.
Definitely. I would say coming into this season, Tulane definitely was probably one of the more underlooked teams in the American Athletic Conference. But in these last 3 weeks, they have completely shown what they've made of. And I think it comes testament to Coach Sumrall in his Tuesday presser today, this week. He spoke on how he was really displeased with the team, specifically about their effort, their physicality, and their toughness. And really, when you look at the games that they've won, it's come basically due to their running game. When Kai Hughes, when he excels, you basically see their passing game open up, and that was really the case Saturday against Rice. In the first half against Rice, Hughes only had 40 yards on 10 carries, and then in the second half, he completely turned it around with 100 yards. So also their defense has been lights out.
Yeah.
I spoke on how they have forced 10 turnovers in the last 3 games. Their offense hasn't given up a single one. So they've been extremely efficient. They've played complementary football, and their special teams has showed up as well. So I think Tulane, they definitely have excelled. I think they've surprised some people, but I also think they shouldn't be taken lightly, and they're definitely in the conversation for the playoff going forward.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, 10 turnovers forced by the defense. I mean, 5 of them were in that game this week against Rice, 24-10. It wasn't one of those games where that Tulane wasn't at its best, but that's what good teams do. When they're not at their best, they find a way to win the game, and they did that against Rice. When their defense was, you talk about Makai Hughes, and you talked about this defense. Like, this is a team I feel like that whatever way they need to get it done, they just find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I would agree. When you look at the beginning of the game against Rice, I agree. They were really sluggish. The running game was, slow to develop. The receivers really struggled. They had a lot of key drops, really deep down the field, easy, hand me balls. So it was a lot of mental errors going on. Tyler Grubbs made an athletic interception in Tulane territory early in the game, and the drive was squandered due to a false start. So they had some key penalties. They didn't have a lot, but they just had a lot of untimely penalties that ruined some potential drives. So they really, had potential to play better, but they just had to play cleaner. And we've seen that in previous weeks. I feel like coming off the bye, they might have had some malaise. They might have had a little bit of lackadaisy, as they say, lackadaisicalness going on. But, and Coach spoke about that. So I think now that they had a wake-up call against Rice in their next game against North Texas, which is a team in the conference that's very competent, they will have to show up, and they will have to play clean, and they will have to take advantage of turnovers. They did have 5 turnovers, but one key is that they only scored 10 points off of those turnovers. So it'll be key for them to, capitalize more on the opportunities that they do get.
Yeah, and right now their opportunities they're at right now in the AAC conference, they are undefeated. So they are a perfect 3-0, and that's what matters right now. I mean, their only 2 losses this season were against Power 4 opponents, so Kansas State and Oklahoma. So this team is definitely playing really good football, and we'll see how this team needs to improve moving forward. And speaking of that, they played complementary football. They've shown they can win it in multiple ways. But what do you think is the next step for Coach Sumrall's team, this program, in order for them to have a legitimate shot to play in the college football playoff this year?
I would just say consistency. I feel like specifically on the defensive side, they played really well in terms of taking advantage of opportunities given to them. They had a defensive lineman, Adonis Freelu, who got a pick off of a tip from Tyler Grubbs. And also, Micah Robinson, he had a key pick in the red zone, but they also gave up big plays. They had a few coverage bus. Guys open down the sidelines. They had some missed tackles. Dean Connors, he didn't have the biggest game, but the few runs that he did have, they came due to missed tackles. So they just have to clean those things up. And on the offensive end, like I said, really just concentration. Darian Mensah, he had some throws that he missed where he had a clean pocket. Key on key plays on third downs, fourth downs. And receivers also not making concentration catches, having concentration drops. And you can't have that in big games. And Coach Summerall said that, there are certain plays that have to be made in order to win games. And you cannot give up easy plays. You have to take advantage of what's given to you. So those are things that they have to work on in order to really take that next step in the conference.
Yeah, and the most important thing is you can look at the film room, you can go back and look at all these mistakes and say, hey, we won the game. It's much easier doing that when you win these games than when you're looking at losses, looking ahead. So big win for the Green Wave. They improved to 5-2 overall this season, 3-0 in the AAC. So for more of Deven's Tulane coverage, make sure to go to our website. That's where we'll post a lot of his Tulane coverage. So make sure to go to gridironfootballusa.com for that. So Deven, we're going to make the transition. I know they got North Texas next week, but we're going to make the transition to the high school game that you covered as well. Lakeshore and Pearl River. I've seen Pearl River this year. I've actually seen both these two teams play this year. Pearl River, they got a pretty impressive running back in the backfield, and Tayshawn Baydon. And Lakeshore, they're well coached under Coach Indes, and they got a lot of options. They got guys like 4 or 5 different options they can run the football with in that wing T offense that he likes to run. So Lakeshore, you saw it. You're there in person. Lakeshore is moving pretty strong this year, and they got themselves another convincing win over the Rebels.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the first thing that I have to commend Lakeshore on, and I commented it on repeatedly throughout the game, was honestly their scheme. I felt like they had a unique play diversity. They honestly utilized a lot of RPOs. They had a lot of motion, and they had a pretty mobile quarterback in Ben Bernard that they use. They use his legs in order to get the passing game open. So I think they really schemed beautifully. But I just wanted to highlight that. That it was beautiful to watch. But going into this game, at the beginning of the game, Pearl River, they honestly came out dominating on the run game too. It was a battle of two teams with physical run games, big lines. And Pearl River, they scored first. Like you said, Tashad Badon, he powered in early, on the goal line. And Lakeshore answered right back. It was a back and forth game early on. 2 good running backs. Pishon. They had Cato Pishon. He was very instrumental. He had an 18-yard run early. And then literally the play after, Pishon got an interception off of a tipped pass, putting Lakeshore right back into their own territory. So they had guys playing well on both sides. And, through the first half, Lakeshore was only up 14-7. So, basically in the second half, they really took off. At one point, they were up 35-7, and Pearl River started to score, a little later towards the game. But I have to give credit to Lakeshore for their style of controlling the game. I feel like with their run game, their defense, they just wore down Pearl River eventually. And, it was hard for Pearl River to come back because they couldn't pass as well on Lakeshore.
Yeah, that makes a difference, right? And when you have a running team and you give yourself a big lead over that running team, it's hard to come back throwing the football and trying. And like we said, Pearl River's got a great running back. You mentioned him, and you kind of eliminate him from being an impact in the game, especially if you go up to a big lead. So Hey guys, this is Jason Lejeune from Gridiron Football. We are here at the Ballin in the Boot, and as always, every week we're joined by Grant Chachere. Like I say, our writers do a great job of covering the games that they're designated to go to and cover. They do a great job of giving you some inside scoop for that. But it's great to talk about some of the other teams outside of our area that we can't really go to, or some of the games we just haven't covered that are worth mentioning this week. So to help me with that, I bring in Grant Chachere. Grant does a great job for Crescent City Sports and for Rigor Sports Media. Been a buddy of mine for a while, and does a great job. And was an intern with us at Gridiron Football too. So Grant's definitely one of the guys that's rising up in the profession. So I'm proud of him. He's doing a great job. And Grant, welcome to the show, my man.
Oh, it's not welcome. This is the 7th week in a row, which is saying a lot. How fast this season's gone by. The thing is, you got to enjoy football season when you have it, because it seems like as you get older, it just goes by quicker. I thought last year was a little bit slower, but just that's how it is, especially with week 8. We're approaching we're going to enter week 8. Week 7's already passed. And only a few more these shows left, man. It's which is crazy. When playoffs happen, it's slim pickings, because each week the games get less and less and less, because obviously it's the playoffs. So you got to enjoy this football season while you have it. High school football season ends in December. College football season ends in mid to late January now, because the expansion of the college football playoff, and of course the NFL ends in February. So enjoy these next few months while you have it.
Oh yeah, we are. We're soaking it all in, and we got a lot of games to talk about. So when Grant comes on the show, we're going to basically talk about 10 games that we agreed to talk about, and just briefly just give your overall thoughts about the score and the game, and that's what we hear. I mean, we do the Friday Nights in the Bayou for Crescent City Sports, Rigor Sports Media. I mean, and that's more of an initial reaction, as it happens, because we get to see it for the first time, and now we get a chance to let it settle in a little bit and get a chance for overall breakdown of it. So first game we obviously have to talk about, and it was the biggest game up in North Louisiana. That was Neville and Ruston. And coming in, Ruston had the longest winning streak in the state. I believe 19 games going in. So they had the longest winning streak in the state, until Neville decided, let's put an end to that. And they got a 26-21 win. I believe coming in, I think Ruston was ranked number 1, and Neville was ranked number 6, power rankings and all that. But man, it was back and forth. Josh Brantley had himself a really good game. It was a great football game. Parker Robinson had himself a great football game, and Neville was just on the winning end of it. And right now we got to talk about Neville differently. But man, Grant, your reaction to this one? Obviously, 2 great teams, and now Neville with a 26-21 win over Ruston, and definitely, even though Neville, we expect what we expect from him, right? But still, a little bit of a surprising win over a team that everybody thought would be the number 1 team in the state.
Oh, well, I mean, this is a surprising result in the aspect of, everyone thought Ruston was so dominant, but I think last week kind of changed everyone's minds a little bit, because now they seem human. They went to Texas and did the state of Texas did a lot of great things. They beat 2 state powers, and of course Stephenville, which they slaughtered 6-3 to 17. And that was the number 1 team in 4A in the state of Texas. And then they beat Longview, who was one of the bigger brands in the state of Texas. So when they came back to Louisiana obviously last week was Washington Parish, but the week before, the last week was Washington Parish, and then this week was, of course, Neville. And so, while you had a close one against Washington last week, where it came down to a missed extra point to tie the game up, and then this week you went up against your longtime rival in Neville, and this is the first time Neville has been in 5A in almost 20 years, something crazy, 20, 25 years. So the first time these guys have been district opponents. Last year, Ruston beat Neville 14-10, so I was expecting another close one here, although I did pick Ruston, but Neville just keeps rolling along. There's a reason why they're undefeated going into the game, and there's a reason why they're undefeated going after the game. I mean, if there's any team that could beat this Ruston team, it would be Neville, because they have the talent to do so, and they're both sound offensively and defensively, especially on the defensive side of the ball, with Mike Collins being their former defense coordinator at Neville the last few seasons. Now he takes over as the head coach. This Neville Tiger team, they're rolling along, and Neville has always been a great program. They've had a lot of success, but this is the first time we've seen Neville be this dominant in 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, you're right. And this is a big win for Neville. We're talking about them in a different light. We're probably heading to this game. We thought really high of Neville, right? We have probably maybe a borderline type top 5 team in the state.
I had them top 5. I think they were top 5 in my opinion.
Yeah, top 5. Yeah, but now you're in a conversation of best team in Louisiana. That's how big of a win that was for Neville. And next we'll talk about Catholic and Central. This was a big game in terms of the district championship race, and we actually had Tyler for us. Tyler James covered that football game for us. So if you want to read more about it, you go to gridironfootballusa.com. But Tyler wasn't able to join us. He had to go to a funeral. So
condolences to him.
Condolences to him and everything. But we had to talk about this game. Catholic and Central, big win for Catholic. It was a statement win because Central was a trendy upset pick. I mean, myself included, I even picked Central to win this football game. But Catholic just shows what Grant said on Friday nights in the Bayou program. Catholic showed exactly that, 35-17, and man, this Catholic football team at this point in the year, Grant, they are really dangerous and they're really clicking right now on all cylinders.
Catholic, in the wise words of Pat McAfee, Catholic is a program, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a Catholic. They've been doing this, for the last 10, 15 years. They're going to start off slow at the beginning of the year, and then all of a sudden they're just going to get hot. And when they get hot, it's usually around the time they start district play. And if Central would play Catholic, I think at the beginning of the year, I think, Central, that would have been a trendy upset because, Catholic's usually slow at the beginning of the year, and then, Central was looking really good. But we enter district play, and this is when Catholic starts to heat things up. This is when they start to lock down because, Coach Fuller told me before the year when I went to go interview him for a preview article I did on Catholic, actually. And he said they have 3 different seasons, the non-district slate, the district slate, and then the playoffs. Those are, so this is around the time where they really start to lock down. And it's not shocking that Catholic won. It might be a little bit shocking that Catholic won by this margin. But Catholic is Catholic. And Calici is Calici, is that's the slang term for Catholic, of course. And Ryland Parker had a big game, 106 yards and 16 carries. The Catholic as a whole rushed for 179 yards. It's just a great overall performance from the Bears, and Baylor Graves had a big game as well. They have 2 really good quarterbacks. If one of them gets hurt, the next guy up is also really good too, and Kurt Turner Goldsmith. So Catholic is just loaded on almost every single position, and it seems like they're starting to figure out the quarterback situation over there. Yeah, because you have 2 really good ones, but then also who's going to get the snaps? How can they handle being in these big game environments? And I think they're finally trying to figure that out. And it will be that Catholic Zachary game. It's going to be huge again. I know Zachary may not be the same Zachary team as years past, but they're still a great team, still a well-coached team. And they're getting a little hot too coming around. They're starting to come around too. So that game in week 10 on Thursday night,
boy,
that's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, it always is between those 2 programs, that. And when we talk about Catholic, right, the running game you just mentioned, with Jay Miles, Ryland Parker, the offensive line they have, and then the defense, that's a really good offense on the other sideline for Central. To hold them to 17 points, that's saying a whole lot. So a very impressive win. That was a statement win for the Catholic High Bears. Now let's talk about a game that you're at on Saturday, that you were the sideline reporter for Crescent City Sports. And that was really 2 teams we talked about, was probably in that conversation of maybe second best team in the Catholic League. And we got to see it play out on the football field between Rummel and St. Aug. And it was a great game. It was everything that you thought it was going to be. The game went into overtime. It was a thrilling game. Grant, you were there. So tell us about how good of a game it was between both these 2 teams.
The game started off pretty fast at first. St. Aug actually got up to a quick 14-0 lead, and you started to think, okay, maybe St. Aug's back to playing how they played. They're back to being, they just seem hot. They had a lot of swagger, and then all of a sudden, Ruston started playing solid football, and they're able to tie the game up pretty quickly as well. But it was just pretty slow for the rest of the game. And Rummel actually had a 20-14 lead late in the fourth quarter. St. Aug was driving down the field on fourth down. They actually ran a trick play where they handed off the ball to the running back, and the running back did a jump pass. And nearly scored. They got tackled at the 4-yard line, but they're able to score on the next play. But then what happened wasn't, and this is very infamous in St. Aug lore. The kick was blocked. It's very famous that either they missed an extra point, the extra point was blocked. Something to do with special teams. And that's what happened. The extra point was blocked. The game-winning extra point, matter of fact, was blocked. Yeah. The game went to overtime. St. Aug threw a pick. And then Rummel was able to score on the very first play. Karan Hawkins scored on a 10-yard touchdown, which was his third of the game. Karan Hawkins had to take a heavier load in this game because Norman Taylor was dealing with some injuries as well. He turned his ankle in the Brother Martin game, so he's still dealing with that. But I think, they're going to try to rest Norm a little bit, longer. I think the next game they play Holy Cross. They might play Norm a good bit, but I think they're going to keep him the rock to Karan because it seems like he's getting a little bit more comfortable taking a heavier set of the load. And they really need Norm Taylor because the running games, the running games are more effective with Norm because you got two backs with fresh legs. And so when you have one back, and then also the passing game hasn't really been there for Rummel recently. They really need Norm Taylor back. But big win for the Raiders of Rummel. And I also want to say one quick thing about St. Aug. There's been a lot of talk. I've been hearing there's a little bit of chatter among the alumni base from different people about Valdez. And the administration, here's the thing, the administration loves Valdez, but there's some chatter around the alumni base. And I have to say this one thing, because you don't know who's watching, but I'll have to say this one thing. Be patient. He's taking over a team that did not win a single Catholic League game last year. Matter of fact, they finished the season 4. They finished the regular season 3-7 and finished the season as a whole 4-8. This is going to take, I said this before the season, like this is going to be a year thing. Like next year, I think they'll be very good. But this year, they're still trying to install a new culture. It's going to take a little bit. It's not going to be a quick fix because he's doing it for the long term, not the short term. So be patient. Valdez is a good coach. Robert Valdez is a good coach. He's won at every single place he's been at. It's just going to take time. Yeah. So I think St. Aug will be very good. But right now, they're dealing with 3 straight losses. And I think everyone was on their high horse because they started off the season really good. But with certain Catholic plays, it's a little bit different, man. All the teams are tough. So that's all I got to say about that. But, I think St. Aug will have another bounce back opportunity against Brother Martin next week, which will be a huge game between two Seventh Ward programs. So I will be there. But I'm very excited about that. But, that's a great game between two well-coached teams in Rummel and St. Aug.
Yeah, and that game came down to the wire. I mean, Rummel's a really good football team, and they definitely have a luxury. They probably have one of the best running back rooms in the entire state of Louisiana when you have those two guys healthy. But yeah, I mean, I know St. Aug's had a tough stretch because they did lose to Jesuit the week before. So we'll see how they bounce back. And
they should have won against Jesuit too.
Yep. Right. And we'll see how this team.
Had the lead.
See how this team bounces back after a little bit of a tough stretch. So, but I'm expecting them to bounce back, and they definitely played Rummel down to the wire. Let's talk about another game featuring a team in that area. Again, actually, might as well go throw it to a game that you also covered, and that was Shaw and Walker. And basically, from what I was seeing from the score that you're posting and updating a lot of people about on social media, I mean, Archbishop Shaw, man, I mean, they're on a roll right now. I believe was it 59-14 was the final score over Walker. So right now, I mean, Hank Tierney's got these guys really playing, and this is the Shaw team we expected now going into the season. And right now, they're really hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, I mean, they start the season 1-2, but that's what happens when you play against teams like Carr.
Yeah,
who, I mean, might be is actually the best team right now in the state because Ruston lost and they're still undefeated. And then, you make a case Neville and Carr, but I think Carr right now is the better team overall. But then they also lost against Rummel, which is a game really Shaw was in it and really Shaw had a chance of winning but just things didn't work out in their favor, and they ended up losing 35-21. But they've been on a 4-game winning streak since that Rommel loss. They're playing some really good football. Coach Tierney was kind of worried about how this team would start off, because usually Shaw starts off slow and then they get better as the game goes on. But this game, they're just throwing punches from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. They're throwing jabs, they're throwing uppercuts, they're throwing hooks. I mean, it was just Coach Tierney said after the games that was the best overall performance his team has had all season. And Walker's not a bad team. Walker's a 4-2 team with a lot of talent. And Shaw just ran them out the stadium. Of course, the score is 59-14. Jasper Parker had 151 yards and 4 touchdowns. And he had a huge game, and he didn't play the second half. That's a crazy thing. Yeah. Is that Coach Tierney sat some of his stars in the second half, including Jasper, and they're still scoring points. I mean, that just shows you how much confidence Coach Hank has in these guys right now. And I think they're on pace to win the district title. They still have to play Belchase, who's undefeated, and they still have to play St. Charles. Even though I know St. Charles is struggling, St. Charles is going to play Shaw really tough, right? And give them all kinds of hell going to that game. But they have a great shot of winning out. If they do win out, they will secure home field advantage through the semifinals. And what a better way to do it against a 5A team like Walker, who is highly regarded as one of the more talented teams in the Baton Rouge area.
Yeah, that was a statement. That was a statement by Archbishop Shaw, and right now by basically how they've been playing right now. When you look in that Division II select side of things, they're looking like the favorites to win the state championship, especially if they continue to go on this role that they're having. Another game in the Catholic League. We'll go back to the Catholic League here, and this was another game you can say, okay, like there's a measuring stick game in the Catholic League as far as who's that second best team. John Curtis and Brother Martin face off against each other as well, and this is the type of game that if John Curtis was going to win, it was going to be a type of score like this based on how their defense has played. And it turned out to be the case because we know how Brother Martin's offense, how explosive they can be on that side of the football. But John Curtis' defense was a story here, 17-14, able to get a field goal win. And this is a big win for the Patriots.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, John Curtis has really been struggling on the offensive side of the ball. But luckily for them, they were able to go up against a team like Brother Martin, who has also been struggling on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah. Right, their passing game's good. I mean, of course, they got Easton Royal, who's been doing a lot for that passing attack, but that offense is really one-dimensional. They really don't have – Brother Martin hasn't had a running game really all year, and which is kind of part of the problems with the offense. I mean, their offense goes to the running game, and so right now the fact they don't have a running game is kind of concerning. But even though Brother Martin's winning some games, that's the rushing attack has been a huge detriment to the success of the team so far this season. And Curtis capitalized on that. Curtis turned the ball over. Curtis forced turnovers, and that was how they were able to win that game. They forced their turnover actually late in the game with Brother Martin driving down the field. It looks like they're about to score, but then they got an interception to seal the deal. So John Curtis's defense has got to make up for a lot of what the offense is going through because the defense is returning almost everybody. But the offense, they're just young and they're inexperienced still. Even though they played a lot of games, the offense has turned the ball over a lot. So the defense has got to really make up for some of the issues on the offense. It's pretty. Next we got to go against Jesuit, and Jesuit's a very good team as well. I know Jesuit maybe I think they're like 4-3 right now, but don't let the record fool you. They've already beaten St. Aug, they've already beaten Brother Martin, and really probably should have beat Holy Cross too. And they've beaten Edie White, and Edie White's one of the better teams in the state right now, one of the better 4A teams in the state right now. So this is a pretty good Jesuit team that has a shot to beat John Curtis, given their issues on Curtis's offense. But that would be a kind of a warm up game for Curtis because after that they got to play Carr. So you really need to get your things. Curtis need to really get their things in order. Brother Martin's kind of the same thing. They got to go against a St. Aug team that is unraveling right now, but it's still a very talented St. Aug team. And of course they got some other big games coming up with Holy Cross and Warren Easton as well.
Yeah, a lot of parity going on in that Catholic League. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that was going on. Like we talk about the SEC, everybody having a loss in the SEC. Well, is that parity going on right now in the Catholic League? Now let's talk about. We're going to briefly touch about this game, mostly because it's a pretty cool record with Acadiana and Lafayette. But Caden Dabetta, the quarterback for Acadiana, is a unique situation, right? He actually set the career passing yards record set by his head coach, Matt McCullough. Was able to get that passing yards record on a touchdown pass, by the way, to get the record too. So Acadiana was handling business against Lafayette. They got the win, but that's not the big storyline here. It was the record. So we'll briefly talk about how cool that is, not only for Caden to get the record, but to beat his head coach in doing that.
Yeah, Caden Dabetta had 254 yards and 4 touchdowns in his last game, which ultimately broke the career passing record in Acadiana history. And the last 2 games, Acadiana's thrown the ball for 555 yards. Last week, they're able to throw the ball for 300 yards. So this is a very explosive Acadiana offense. Acadiana is usually no more for their rush attack because obviously they run the veer. Speaking of the veer, Curtis runs the veer, and so does Acadiana. That's what those 2 teams are known for, is running the veer. But Acadiana, when you have 2 wideouts like Caden's little brother, Colin Dabetta, who's got a few D1 offers himself, and then Russell Babineau, who is a UL commit, you could do a whole lot of things with that offense. And the veer kind of opens up those big passing gains. And, because you run the ball, you think they're run the ball, but then all of a sudden, oh, wait, they're running the pass. And then, boom, somebody's wide open down the field. So congratulations to Caden Dabetta. And this Acadiana team is playing some great football. I mean, their only loss of the season was to Ruston and a 35-27 loss. But since then, they've been playing some really good football. Division I select. That's going to be a very interesting bracket when it comes out in a couple of weeks. We're getting closer to the playoffs. So I'm really excited, ready to see all the top teams play against each other.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, that bracket for sure is going to be definitely fun to talk about and fun to cover. I'm not sure who you pick as a winner. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams.
Yeah.
In the Division I select. Let's go to North Louisiana here. Actually, I looked it up. Even though it was reported on your show, Grant, I believe Oak Grove actually won the game. So I looked back and re-looked at it. It was 26-20 Oak Grove. So it wasn't Mangum. I actually was looking up. Now, you could try and make sure that it's correct here, but I think it's 26-20. We could go back and talk about it, but Oak Grove was able to get that win because that was a game that can go either way between those teams. So it's definitely important to figure out who won that game because it could go either way when looking at both these teams. But Oak Grove was able to edge out Mangum 26-20.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were doing the updates from the Crest City School Board. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Oak Grove beat Mangum. Both teams that had a great season. Of course, Oak Grove. I mean, they lost a couple games. I believe one of those losses was to Calvary Baptist. Now, forgot who the other one was too. But Oak Grove, this is around the time like Catholic. They're starting to play some of their tougher opponents, and they're starting to lock in for the playoffs. And Oak Grove, of course, we always expect to go to the Dome. Of course, just given what Oak Grove's done in recent times, you have a dynamic quarterback in Jack Bradley. James Lane, their tight end, is one of the better tight ends in the state.
Yep.
They got a lot of great players on this Tiger team. Of course, Mangum is a very talented team too. Don't forget about them. I think they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. The Dragons, they fought hard against an Oak Grove team that's, a state title contender, and Mangum made, by having this type of game against Oak Grove, Mangum is starting to make some noise for themselves too. Hey, don't forget about us. And I'm really excited to see what this Dragon team does in the playoffs.
Yeah, I just looked it up. They actually won every game since the loss to Calgary, so they're 6-1. But they're looking pretty strong right now. Looking for another state championship run, like they did the last couple of years. Amant and Pine. This has always been a game where it can go either way. In fact, I believe Pine defeated Amant last year. But this is a really a rivalry basically between two really good teams in that area. Now we talk about Amy more because they've won state championships in the last couple of years, but Pine under Bradley Seal has been a consistent playoff contender year in and year out. They just get overshadowed by a team like Kentwood or Amy. But this has been a really a tough game. But Amy, I feel like this is they're really picking up steam. I mean, they defeated Kentwood. You know, that rivalry has always been a great game, a great matchup year in, year out. And then they turn around and defeat a good Pine team 33-14. So right now, Grant, I believe the Amy Warriors is a team that we got to start talking about too, as far as a hot team down the stretch.
Oh yeah, I mean, Amy is always going to be in the conversation. For top teams in the state. I mean, they've always had a great program. They've won multiple state championships. I believe they won about 5 or 6 state championships in the school's history.
Yeah.
But they've had a lot of success. Coach Powell has won 2 state championships himself in 2018 and 2021. Amy, they had to deal with some tough losses. One of them was to Franklinton, who's currently right now the number 2 team in Division II non-select. And then, of course, their other loss was to Hammond. And Hammond is actually one of the more improved teams in the New Orleans area. And really, Coach Buckle's done a great job with that tornado team. But ever since they've won 5 straight games, and 2 of their last 3. And of course, we talked about their win over Pine, which 33-14 was a pretty surprising result, given how good Pine is. Also, Pine's a really good team as well. But also winning over your longtime rival in Kenwood, and Kenwood's also a very good team. And Kenwood could be making some noise in the playoffs in Division IV select. Now, Kenwood's a select team, just FYI, just because sometimes I forget about that because all the Tangible schools are not select.
Yeah.
Amy's in Division III select. So, that's a very tough bracket. Kenwood's in Division IV select, which is a very tough bracket as well. But Division III select, you have Newman, you have Denham, you have Calvary, of course, LCA. Well, I'm not sure. LCA's not really doing much this year, but Notre Dame. There's a lot of great teams that Division III select this year. And I'm really excited to see how that bracket turns out.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of really good brackets this year, especially with the tune-up, with the change, of course, with the classifications and the districts and all that. And I mean, it's going to be a really exciting playoffs. And Grant, we got 2 more games to briefly talk about here on Ballin and Boot. And one of them is Calvary Union Parish. I mean, this is a matchup of styles, right? I mean, Calvary, you think of them being a more of a finesse team, like when everybody thinks of Calvary, that's what they think of, scoring a lot of points, throwing it all across the yard. You got James Simon back there, Abram Mordell. You got a lot of really big-time offensive players. You think of Union Parish, they want to really beat you up. I mean, they're a tough, physical, want to rough you up type of team. But what impresses me here was that Calvary Baptist was able to win that type of game in Union Parish's style, winning kind of like an ugly type of game 24-15. And I think this is a huge win. Not only they're able to beat, and it was a matchup between 2 defending state champions. Not only were they able to beat them, and win the game, but to do it in what Union Parish wants to do. So that could really help Calvary Baptist moving forward when we talk about them getting back in the state championship this year.
Oh yeah, I mean this was a game. Not was a big game between two of the defending state champions from last year, but this is also a game with district title implications. Whoever won this game, of course, was the front runner for our district title in Division I 2A. So this is a huge win for Calvary, and also I think just for Calvary to win the game like this, really help them down the road because you're going to be playing teams like a Union Parish where they want to keep you off the field as much as possible. Union Parish did a great job of doing that. However, Calvary was just too much for the Farmers. Of course, the Farmers now fall to 3-4, but the Farmers had a really tough schedule, so I think they'll still have a solid seeding by the time you get to the playoffs. I mean, right now I know the power ratings they're at 11th, but actually I wouldn't want to play Union Parish anywhere, and anyway, even if they're the 11th seed, because a lot of their losses were against North DeSoto, Alexandria, and Airline. All three North DeSoto's and 4A, and Alexandria and Airline are 5A. So it's not like they just lost against teams that are equal caliber to them. They actually went up and played some of the top teams in the state, and with much better numbers and better depth. So the Farmers, at a loss like this to Calvary Baptist, I don't think it's going to hurt them that much. But because they already played some tougher competition, it will help them down the line when you get to playoffs.
Absolutely. A big win for Calvary. And one more game we're going to discuss here on Ball in the Boot. And this was actually an underrated, undefeated matchup that not a lot of people really talk about.
Yeah. Even I didn't talk about it. Yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah, I didn't realize Ascension Episcopal was undefeated. That's my fault.
Yeah, but Vermilion Catholic and Ascension Episcopal undefeated going into it. Somebody has to lose this football game, and it happened to be the Blue Gators because they met somebody named Jonathan D'Artes, and they figured out that he is pretty good at football. And he had himself another big-time game in a 49-27 win. He's just been so exciting. 40 carries, 282 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. I mean, what can you have to say, man? I mean, like, he just puts his team on his back week in and week out.
He's John. I mean, this is what you expect him to do every game. John is going to do John things. Jonathan D'Artes has been one of the top playmakers for the last 4 years. He's been a key playmaker for them since he was a freshman for the Screaming Eagles down there in Vermilion Catholic. So it's a big, it's another big time win for this Vermilion Catholic program. Vermilion Catholic, of course, has had 2 straight semifinal appearances the last 2 years. They made the state championship in 2022, where they ultimately lost against Washington Christian, who is another great team, and they're public seeing again in the playoffs. Washington Christian has another big time game. I think it's against Mangum, either Mangum or it was somebody of that caliber, like a really solid team. I gotta double check that. But Vermilion Catholic, I mean, this is what they do. They just they keep finding ways to win these big games, and not only that, by double digits. What was the final score for this game? Just to make sure.
49-27.
Okay, so it was again by double digits. So I mean, this Vermilion Catholic team is rolling. I mean, if you went the more they keep winning like this, I'm wondering if they have any weaknesses at all. And by the way, Washington Christian does play Mangum, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. We'll definitely talk about that game for sure. Yeah.
But going back to Vermilion Catholic, that's just this is what they do. They just win these big games by these big margins, and we have players like John D'Artes. Things like that can be done, and I'm really excited to see this Vermilion Catholic team go in the playoffs because they're going to be playing a lot of great teams. Division 4 Select is stacked.
It is.
Right? You not only got Kentwood, you got Washington Christian, as I already mentioned, but then you also have St. Edmund and Catholic Point Compete, who are going to be playing each other this week.
Yeah.
You got Southern Lab. I mean, you got Riverside. You get St. Martin's. West St. John is returning back to their normal form. I mean, well, I'm not sure if they're select, but anyway, but my point is there's a lot of big time 1A programs on the select side, not so much on the non-select side, which is pretty disappointing. Like that playoff, I'm gonna say this right now, that playoff bracket
right now, and
oh my god, here's the thing: Haynesville is the 8th seed. The power ratings right now, they're the 8th team in their power ratings.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's not because it's because they played weaker opponents than everybody else. That's why. That's kind of why why that is. But again, like Haynesville, a lot of people see Haynesville as the number 1 team in Division 4 Select. But if you look at the teams in Division 4 not select, it's not good. And I was actually talking with somebody the other day, and I was like, they need to combine the Division 4 select and non-select. Just make one big Division 4.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think that's just better. I just think it's better quality of football. Overall, it's better for everybody. But anyway, going back to but Vermilion Catholic, that's what you expect from Vermilion Catholic. From them in this big win over Ascension Episcopal, and don't sleep on Ascension Episcopal like we did, because we completely wrote them off. It's and then we realized, oh wait, these 2 teams were undefeated. Oh crap! So don't write off the Gators, because they seem like they're on a roll as well.
And one more thing to talk about. I mean, these are all the games we talked about, but just a cool note. There are a lot of milestone coaching wins this week. I mean, Sid Edwards won his 200th win. Coach Gwynn, again, he won his 200th as well. I think Neil Weiner won his 150th. Dennis Dunn won his 250th. So how cool is it to see all these milestone wins this week around the state?
That's pretty cool, but it's also what you expect them to do. They're great. All 4 of them are great coaches. They'll even say the same thing themselves. They just here's the thing. Like, these coaches don't want to achieve these milestones. They just want to achieve victories, right? And
right.
the more you win, the more you're going to reach these milestones. The first goal is always to win, and also not only win games but also win championships. They're not really trying to go for these milestones. These milestones just happen to come along the way.
Right.
Just
Exactly.
winning games, winning championships, and being very successful and being very good at what they do. But what makes these coaches very important as well is how they mold men. I think that's the most important thing they get out of these shops, and they'll say that themselves. And so, congratulations to all these coaches for all their accomplishments. I have to know all 4 of them pretty well, and all 4 of them have done a great job, and also helped me get as much information as possible.
Absolutely. Well said, Grant. Grant, good job as always, man. Appreciate you coming on as well and balling the boot. What's going on? Friday Nights in the Bayou's been doing a good job for you as well. I help you with that show too. And then, of course, what's going on in Crescent City Sports? Anything that you want to plug to wrap this up?
Yeah, just go on CrescentCitySports.com to get all the latest and high school coverage, not only in the New Orleans area, but are also around the state. We always go to some of the top games in the New Orleans area. Of course, that's where we're based out of. But we always are going to have some information from around the state, and also as we're getting closer and closer to the playoff time, we're probably going to have a lot more statewide coverage as well, because obviously you got to travel. Obviously you got teams from Lafayette traveling to New Orleans.
Games you got,
teams travel into like Monroe or something like that. So this is one of the best times of the year. And then also week 8. I know week 8 is gonna be kind of slow. I was looking at the slate this week. It's slim pickings. I mean, what you consider these flashy matches, but that doesn't mean that good football is not gonna be played. But week 9 and week 10. Oh my God, I'm really excited for week 9 and week 10.
It's crazy. I don't know what to pick for week 9 and week 10. I remember me and Grant will have similar problems there, but week 8, man, it's flown by. But
I'll say this week 8 though, we're both gonna be at Catholic Point Could-Be, and
we're definitely gonna be there Thursday.
And
I'll be there Thursday, and then I got call Episcopal game Friday, so that's why I know of. So
who they got this week?
Northeast. That is going to be Episcopal.
Okay, I thought Dunham's next week, right?
That's going to be one of those big week 9 games. The Dunham and Episcopal. That's going to be, and it's probably going to end up being like number 1 versus like number 3.
Yeah.
In the power.
Yeah, because so Dunham's number 1 and Episcopal's number 2 right now in the Division 3 select power. I was just looking at that.
Yeah, so that's gonna be huge. Obviously, so that should be a really good one. Grant, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you, and we'll chat. On Friday, we'll actually for Friday Nights in the Bayou, and then also we'll chat this week about the games, preview some of those week 8 matchups that we're talking about.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on, Jason. I'm looking forward to week 8.
Absolutely, Grant. Hello, guys. Welcome to another segment here. I'm Ballin in the boot. And, of course, we're joined by our guys, our friends over at Louisiana Prospects. And it's been a week off, guys. It's been a little lonely on the show, I got to say, without y'all. So, been a little quiet for sure. But, yeah, guys, thank y'all for coming back. Another week of talking about what's going on in Louisiana Prospects for y'all. And then also was just going around talking about Louisiana high school football, also talking about the middle school side too, and I got a chance to cover some games as well. But before we dive into that, let's talk about what's going on in Louisiana Prospect. So, Tony, tell us what's going on. Give us our Louisiana Prospect update.
You got it, Jace. Hey, before I start though, I'm loving this fall weather so far.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
Feels like football for real now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
But currently, we're still in our fall season. We have one more week left. And we'll have the playoffs starting next Sunday. We'll do a one-day event. We haven't done that in a while, huh, Ken?
No, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to do it with some smaller teams.
So, league's smaller this season, so we're going to do it all in one, have the playoffs that morning, and we'll do the Super Bowl games that evening. We'll have a 6U, 8U, 10 and 12U Super Bowl games set up. Excited about that. Got the rings, the bling bling for the guys that and gals that finish as Super Bowl champs to complete our fall season going. And that'll be at EA Sunday, October 27th for those watching. And if you want to come check out and see LA Prospects, how we do our playoff and Super Bowl event. So have some good food vendors as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Also be wrapping up our girls league. that we have going right now.
Great.
Been going good. Small group. We have a 10U group and a 12U group, but I must say, Jace, very talented group of young ladies.
Oh yeah.
Smart young ladies as
very,
well.
very smart, man.
So we kicked it off, and I'm excited about what 2025 will bring with the females side of flag football and the growth that's to come. So we're humbled, to start small and just kind of watch our baby grow as we continue with the girls flag football in Louisiana.
Yeah, they've definitely picked up on it, and they've started to love it week by week. The first week they were kind of a little like, all right, like we know it's football, and we watch most of the boys play it, and some of the girls they play in the league as well, but they really being able just to play with other girls and learn it. I mean, hey, last week we've been starting to get more just in depth, focusing on those fundamentals with the girls and like taking a step back and instead of plays, let's focus on what exactly are the plays and like how are they being ran, like what's being set up on them. So Jason, I tell you, by the end of last week, we had girls lining up. We'd be like, hey, give us twins over here and single side receiver over here. Like, hey, we're gonna go motion jet sweep, and they know what to do, man. Like it was actually like really cool to see. Like you say trips right, and they know exactly how to line up, or twins like the connection and picking it up. 10 all the way up to the 12-year-olds, like they were understanding, and then even defensive concepts. Like it was really cool to see, especially going one more week to see what more can we build onto it to take it more to the next level. They want to scrimmage.
Yeah.
But when they learn these other things that go into it, it's like, oh, this makes the scrimmage a little bit more enjoyable now because we know what we're doing. So it's been great.
Yeah, I can say this: the girls definitely pick up stuff quicker than the fellas do. I can definitely attest to that. And I'm not surprised that you said that.
Tell you, like,
didn't even think about that.
I'll tell you, man, we definitely have some future leaders in this girls group.
Yes,
They are precise, very strategic, and like just
they want
to the point. Right to the
they
point.
Want it to be perfect.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, it's good to watch them pick up. So excited about that and what's to come with the lady prospects.
Oh yeah, and it's great that y'all including the girls as well, and it's great that they're getting an opportunity because we talk about football, being a boy sport, right? But it's also great to get the girls involved and let them have the opportunity to play and show off their talents and their skills as well. Kenneth, anything you want to talk about the Super Bowl? I mean, the big event October 27th.
We're excited about it. Like Tony said, one day is it's not the usual that we do lately for LA Prospects. With the larger size leagues that we usually do in the spring, winter, and fall, we're blessed to be able to bring in those sizes. But that's what we're most excited about this late fall league or this fall league is being able to have a smaller group to focus on more skill wise. Being able to hone in with the groups that may right there getting ready to hit the hump and hit their stride, and so let us give you that little push to hit the stride, and once we get those playoffs, it's just going to make it all more competitive. So we're excited to get everybody out there.
Y'all talk about deadlines and registrations and all of that for the fall league and the winter league as well. You want to talk about that for anybody that wants to register for that and deadlines?
So late fall league is currently going right now. We'll have a 6U aired out, 6U regular division, 8, 10, 12, and a 14U division.
Okay.
Our aired out division, of course, is where the coaches play quarterback.
Okay.
6U coaches, make sure you don't throw any interceptions.
So it's kind of like coach's pitch in a way,
Flag football. But yes, that's currently going. We have some pretty good numbers, thus far. But that registration will end November 5th.
Okay.
And the late fall season is an opportunity for the coaches in our league, right? We do a draft, normally, but this is an opportunity for you to, kind of bring your own team, put your team together how you want to. So,
we're not going to govern it like bring what you want, and then let's see what you got and see what you can put on the field.
Yeah. It's USA sanctioned league, so usually the champions of this league, whoever wins our league, we give them a partial bid to any USA 2025 tournaments on the USA circuit. So the winners do get that and some championship rings. But the deadline is November 5th for that. So if you're considering and thinking about it, go ahead and sign up coaches. There's a coach sign up for coaches and separate players sign up for the league. So if you want to sign up for that, of course the website is laprospectsloc.com. Get that done. Winter registration hasn't opened yet, but we're working on it. We look to have that open for everyone by November 1st.
Okay, just a couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, just waiting to finalize some location facility situations with contracts, and we'll be eager to get the winter started. That's usually our biggest season of the 3.
Sure.
So excited about what 2025 is to bring. And also we have the Gathering Tournament. Registration is still open for that. That'll be the 23rd and 24th.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's another opportunity to, bring your own team. Bring your own team and come compete. Turkey Bowl right before we get ready for Grandma's good old.
Oh yeah. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Yeah, it's a good weekend. The kids out of school and just a little bit of football, a little fun right before you start that Thanksgiving break. So just something to look
and what was
forward to.
what was that registration fee for the gathering?
Registration fee is only a whopping $50.
$50 per kid?
No, that's per team.
Per team.
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't get that in tournaments now.
Right. Hey, it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, gotta be thankful.
We just want all the teams to come have fun and just fellowship and enjoy. One of the best environments. LA Prospects, we're known for just having a great positive environment, family friendly, and just good people. So
yeah,
and let's not leave out competitive.
Right,
it does get competitive.
You know that
we can't play football or sports without having competitiveness in it. So.
I think it's definitely been fun watching. We started the gathering 3 years ago.
Yeah.
At Carver Park and just watched it grow each year we've done it. I remember Tony sitting down talking. He's like, I really want us to do this. We partnered with 2 other organizations the first year, and he was like, I want it to be called the Gathering.
Yeah.
And so, from there it was like, all right, we're gonna do this every year now. We were like, every year. Let's do it. So if anything, it's definitely been fun to see that continue to grow. It's like starting over and just watching it small and continue to get bigger each year. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So, but. That's our baby, the Gathering.
PSA, Syntex Sauce Babies, come get your rings back this year. Make it a 2-peat.
That's Sauce Babies out of Texas, Jason.
Okay.
Good organization. Also, our family then Vols Parish Elite in Bunkie. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And look, we're still growing this tournament. It's a good local tournament, and it still hasn't reached its peak as far as growth. So it continues to grow every year, and we're happy for the growth. So
yeah, for sure. Kenneth, I know we talk about the travel flag elite team. Talk about that and what that entails.
Man, it's been we're ready to get started again in November. I'll tell you that. So we're most of our teams are on kind of a hiatus right now. We ended at in August, so they've been doing some off-season training with with some guys coming out on Sunday and really getting some work in. Tony, and then Jamora Stewart as well, former Southern alum, came out there and working with the boys, receiver training, DB training, speed and condition, and just really, they put in a lot of work during the week with tackle, but our boys still, they miss their flag family, they miss what we have, and so we're still continuing to grind and push for that championship in January. So we're using our Sunday evenings to get that work in, and then November we'll start kicking practices up again. But we have like our our little side set team. I guess we could put it as that's going to go and compete in New Orleans on the 26th, so this next Saturday.
Yeah.
They've been putting in work. We're very excited to see what we can put out on the field. So usually, like we talked about, those the eligibility birthday is the first of the year. NFL, they changed it now, so it's August 1st. So it shrinks down the kids that are eligible, but what it also does is it's going to make things more competitive. It's going to rely on, it's a smaller window of kids that are able to play in that group. So that 12U group, instead of having a full year, you have some kids that are 13 years old. Now you have most kids that are 12, and you may have 1 or 2 kids that are 11. So you're not going to have many kids that are 13 that are going to be able to play. But it's really been it's exciting to see what we're going to go out there and do, and hopefully we keep it in the boot.
Yeah. So a big opportunity for y'all next Saturday, the Saints Regional, and this is for the NFL. Is it for the NFL flag, right?
Go to so if they when they go here and they take care of business and you qualify for your your team's regional, you'll be going to Canton, Ohio next July to compete in the NFL Flag Championship. So we got 3 teams representing the boot. We got one up north with the Roughnecks. That's the team, correct?
Yeah, Roughnecks.
Roughnecks. We got our family up there in the Vols Parish, Vols Parish Elite from Bunkie. And then we have our team right here, LA Prospects Elite. So
Fun, right?
and yes, that's right.
Manzella
the
Saints.
Manzella Saints from New Orleans. So 4 teams from the Boots, and then you got that team over from Texas called Blitz. So
Big opportunity. Big opportunity for y'all on the 26th.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're excited, man. We're gonna go out there and we're just gonna continue to grind and have these boys best prepared as we can.
Hopefully, you'll have more success than the regular New Orleans Saints are having right now. Let's just say that. But that might be another topic for another show, maybe.
I was telling Tony yesterday. I was like, my dad said he'll go play receiver.
Hey, why not? I mean, like at this rate with the injuries, I mean. I think the Saints will ask for fans to come out and line up at receiver and these other positions.
They were asking Bryson Martinez to go play tackle for.
I mean that's a good call. I wouldn't argue against that. But y'all also going to the state of Texas as well. So don't you have the Texas State Championships coming up?
Yeah, that'll be in December, and that'll be a tournament just. Towards the end of the year, right? Tournaments lighten up just a little bit.
Yeah.
You might have 1 or 2 here, each state,
Sure.
It's not a lot. So you're kind of just doing tune-up tournaments to get ready for the big dance, which is January. You got the USA Flag Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have the other national championships.
The
superhero sports.
Yeah, superhero sports. The youth
Disney
flag
World
football
World
champions.
Sports. So. Yeah, that'll be just a tune-up tournament. Obviously, we want to go be competitive and win. Of course, bring back some rings for sure.
Sure.
But definitely be at the state championships. Always, what I can say about Texas, there's always good talent. Just competitive teams that they're gonna stretch you and make you compete. So.
Yeah. Well, guys, anything I want to talk about on the flag side of things to wrap up before we talk about the middle school side?
I think we kind of hit everything for the most part, man. We're excited to wrap up the year, from both the recreational and the competitive side. Very excited to see what the both sides look like in 2025. Competitive, we're gonna take it up a level. We plan to travel more, compete more, and get these kids just to be able to visit more states, visit the country, but also compete against tougher competition to make them better and bring some titles back home to the boot for them. So we're excited.
Even heard about this tournament February 1st, 2nd, Gridiron, 77.
Yeah. Gridiron football is going to have a big 7-on-7 tournament. It's going to be at Lamar Dixon Expo Center. So if you're a 7-on-7 team and no tryouts are getting started in December, start signing your team up. So we're going to have more information about that in the next week about that tournament.
These 5-on-5 teams around here, Jace, they got 8-9 kids on their roster anyway. So
you might as well
put 2 extra offensive guys on the field. Come on.
Yeah.
So
we'll do it if y'all do it.
Y'all heard Ken. Look, if you're a 5v5 team and the 10U up, hey. Add a few more to the roster. Let's try this 7v7.
Yeah, hey, y'all gotten that far. Just add a couple more to the roster, and you're all good. That's all we need. So appreciate it, guys. We're talking about flag football now. These guys also cover some middle school football as well, and try keep up with the youth. They do a great job of doing that, and they got 2 more games coming up to really complete. Man, already the month of October, is it going crazy? I know high school football. This show we're talking about recapping week 7, so going to week 8. So it's crazy how fast this season's flown by. But next couple of games coming up, talk about what's on the horizon for y'all.
Yeah, so next Thursday we'll go check out Central versus Lowry.
Excited for that one.
Excited for that one. These are 2 teams we haven't heard about, but haven't gotten a chance to really see. But I just want to check out some more quality Central Parish football. Tight race right now in the district there, and I know the following week it'll be a good one. We got Prairieville versus Galvez.
Yeah. Should be a good one.
Benny Babin over there is still undefeated.
Yeah.
But wouldn't go to sleep on this Prairieville team.
No.
They're a very competitive team. As you know, we had a Player of the Week 2 weeks ago from them. So excited to go check Central and Lowry out next weekend. Next Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And continue to look at some talent for this middle school all-star game, and just kind of get some names in the pool and see who's interested. Definitely there's definitely some athletes around.
Right. I think Prairieville really is going to need to bring it in order to keep everybody's just trying to keep Galvez right now from getting that district title. So that's what kind of these next two teams that play Galvez, if they want to keep that from happening, that's they got to put all the boots on the ground and take care of business. But Galvez, I mean, they from just reflecting back from the beginning of the season, when we were talking with coach and be like, who are we looking at to take it this season? Like who's going to be your clear leader? I don't think Galvez really came up as a name that we were originally talking about from the get go, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
That wasn't really it just wasn't a name that the coaches first said. We got Lake as the sleeper.
Yeah.
Teams were talking about, I think, Dutchtown and Lake.
Yeah.
But we didn't really get Galvez, and so it's been from the first week. I'm glad we went to that one week one.
So Coach Ben, I remember he was optimistic,
right?
Starting off about the defense rather, and those guys have held up, and their leaders, Malik Schofield, is their athlete, and that guy can take over a game. That's all I'm gonna say. He can take over a game. Any 7v7 squads out there looking for a playmaker. Malik Schofield, like Galvez,
and
they got the tall receiver. Donald Jones, I want to say.
Yep.
Yeah, Donald Jones, just a big target, big.
If they were able to throw the ball more,
he would.
Dangerous. He comes off the edge on defense though, so I mean you're running into his side, like he's shedding that block and he's right there.
Yeah,
there's no question about it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm excited to see Prairieville play Galvez. I think it should be an interesting game. The week after we take care and watch Central versus Lowry. I think you're gonna see with Lowry, you're gonna have a lot of athletes, a lot of good receivers, DB type guys, good quarterback play, just athletic. Probably spread it out, sling it,
Yeah.
So. Central, I think we're going to see some more ground game. They've been known for ground game in the past season. I mean, they got Greg that's over there at Catholic now. They built that running system. I mean, with him, they're just, plug and replace and just keep building. So great programs from both sides. So.
Yeah. And those programs, you look at it, I mean, Prairieville, first year in the high school side of things, and trying to build it through the middle school.
Right, exactly.
And in Central, right now, David Semino's really done a great job with that program. So
some of these
early
Ascension,
on,
they're like freshmen and JV teams right now. All of them really. I mean, the ones that have stuck out to me has been Prairieville's freshman and JV team, Santa Mona's freshman and JV team. Santa Mona's freshman team is solid. They've got a lot of talent on that team. I'm excited to watch them over the next few years. Like genuinely, they've really got some talent coming up.
Yeah.
No bias. Like
Ascension Parish is. Yeah, they got some really good football. I mean, look what Dutchtown did last year.
Right.
They were on the brink of state championship.
Make a run at a title this year, Jay.
They could.
I genuinely do. I know. We kind of center it on middle school a good bit, but from what I watched with Dutchtown, I mean, solid offensive line. I mean, I enjoy watching their defense they're all over the field on defense, and they're not afraid to sling the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
That running back too.
Running back and the top DN.
Yep. Missouri. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
That little running back was all over the field 2 weeks ago. I think he had like three touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, they got good running back too. Yeah, they do. So. But a lot of really good talent, a lot of good middle school talent. So keep an eye. We'll make sure to recap these two games coming up. So Central Lowry on the 24th and Prairieville and Galvez. I mean, the day before Halloween, I believe, so October 31st. So
they had it on the 31st, and they had to move it. I was like, nobody's going to show up at that game.
Yeah, and they want to go trick-or-treating, too. I mean, 7th and 8th grade. So, exactly. So guys, anything y'all want to talk about, just wrapping up the show and wrapping up the segment? I know we had a week off and everything, just kind of get caught up with a lot of things going on. But anything, guys, Louisiana Prospects, I guess one final shout out for anybody that wants to register with y'all, with your program, or they want to follow y'all and register for anything, where they should go to.
So LA Prospects, you can go Facebook, follow us on, and follow our page on Facebook, LA Prospects Flag Football Association. follow us there. That's where we post all the announcements. If you need to get in touch with us, Messenger, obviously, and our email is info@laprospects.com if you want to reach out to us. Any questions? We've been getting a lot of communication about the winter league thus far, so that's our main way. We do have a TikTok page. Can you let them know the TikTok?
Just LA Prospect on TikTok, and then LA Prospects Elite on Instagram. So.
Yeah. So.
Well, I got you guys. I mean, a nice little easy show for today. So make sure there's timestamps on this video. So anything that you want to watch with all our interns going and covering football games all across the area, they do a great job. And obviously, our weekly segment here with the Louisiana Prospects as well. So that's a good thing about it. You can go whatever you want to see. It's a long show. Let's just say it's 2.5 hours because of all these different interns coming on. But if there's a part of the show that you want to watch, especially this part, just click on the timestamp and it'll lead you to it. So
before you sign us off, Jay, so we'll let you know we have a split table today as well, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Tony represents blue from a certain game that's going on today.
Sign them all.
Oh yeah, just a little bit of a rivalry. I mean,
Battle on Burnside.
Battle on Burnside.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is an EA alum, so.
Oh, okay.
So he represents the blue. I'm a Santa Maria alum, so represent the black.
So I'm perfect right here.
I'm glad you're right
in the
man.
middle.
Look, we drove separate cars here today and everything.
I didn't want to hit him or anything.
Right.
So I'm in really the danger zone. Really, I mean, you think about it, like
I'm neutral in the situation. Like it's a great.
He married into it.
Yeah, married into it. It's a great high school rival. For the state. Definitely for the local community, Central Parish community.
I'm glad they've continued up with it. It's great to see.
Moving from Baton Rouge to Gonzales and getting to see the pregame festivities and everything that goes on.
People tailgating on Thursday.
Yeah,
it's a big deal. Now, somebody did make a comment. I think this was my brother-in-law, Josh, the #1 rival in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
I started to say something, but I'm gonna say something now. Everybody knows if Redemptress was still open, that Redemptress barbecue game would still be the best rival if things were still the same. So
right.
I'm gonna just let that marinate a little bit.
Yeah.
Redemptress high, my class 04, baby. Let's go. But hey. Let's go sign them all EA tonight. I'm looking forward to a great game.
I think it'll be a shootout.
Oh yeah, it's always a classic. I would definitely encourage, if you haven't gone to that game, go, because especially if you're an outsider, you're not from here. It's like, hey, what would be a great atmosphere, a great high school football game to go to in Louisiana, just from an outsider? It's like, go see EA and Sam.
Because somebody on Facebook was like, I see everybody talking about this game. I just moved here. Like, what is this? And they're like, it's this big game. Like, it's a tradition. It's the biggest game in the state. Like, everybody hypes it up.
I think there's 2 games going on. There's actually the game, and then there's actually the student sections. In the student sections going on. So, there's 2 different games going on, but it's unbelievable atmosphere. So that should be a good one.
Yeah.
Well, and then you mentioned Redemptress and Parkview, man, that was for state championships a lot of times, district championships. So that was a great rivalry back in the day.
Get goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah.
It's good times.
Absolutely, guys. Thank y'all for coming on. Really appreciate it. Appreciate a great partnership with Gridiron Football and Louisiana Prospects, and the reason why we align so much is because it's all about the kids. That's what we care about. It's all about the kids, and that's what we do care about here as well. So appreciate y'all guys. For Kenneth, for Tony, I'm Jace. We'll see y'all next time on another edition of Ballin' in the Boot.
There we go. Thank y'all.